Some of the content in the following video, some viewers might find a little inappropriate or be a little sensitive to. So, viewer discretion is advised. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents the School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore Lesson 101, Introduction to School of Boredom. So today I wanted to discuss with you what goes into making a School of Boredom lesson, why we decided to make it, and what our goals are. We here at Macabre'Gorium Labs watch a lot of YouTube, whether for news, gameplays, or theories, just to name a few. We noticed a lot of content creators are just rehashing the same thing as other content creators. There also seems to be an abundance of stupid pranks or really stupid challenges, and don't even get me started on the dark web mystery box challenges. What we didn't see that much of was something intelligent for normal people, and I use the term normal very loosely. There are YouTube videos that try to educate, but the subject matter is not made entertaining nor relayed in a way everyone can relate to or understand. Some creators forget that not everyone has a fully working understanding of physics or a fully functioning vocabulary. So we wanted to begin on our YouTube channel a series that would entertain without being too boring. We started thinking about what we could bring to YouTube that wasn't quite the same as everyone else. So we decided to create the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, a video series that will span over 13 episodes and multiple seasons. Often, each season will be centered around a specific topic. For example, we have seasons planned for Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network, as well as other seasons for video games and pop culture media like Star Trek. So, moving forward, animation and cartoons have been a part of my life since I was a little kid. They helped show us kids of yesteryear how to be good people, how to solve problems, and how to laugh at yourself. The cartoons of today seem to have lost that edge of innocence and the ability to just have fun and be silly. Now let's get into how we make a School of Boredom lesson. First, we have to think of our topic. We do this in a few different ways, but usually just by remembering something fondly from our childhood. Second, we do hours of research and make sure the information we provide is accurate and as up to date as possible. Google is a big help in locating information while investigating, as well as email correspondence with the companies we showcase from. Thirdly, after the information is checked and checked again, it goes into checking a third time while it goes into recording. A recording session can sometimes be hours long depending on the School of Boredom length and the information involved. Part 4 starts once the recording is concluded, and then it goes into editing. The editing team will spend many hours adding special effects, sounds, and music into the video. Part 5 is rendering the video, archiving it, and, of course, uploading it to YouTube. Part 6 is while it's uploading, we create the thumbnail. As you can see, a lot of time and love goes into each episode of School of Boredom, and most subjects are close to our hearts because we grew up with these toys, shows, movies, and nostalgia. Lastly, our goals are to educate people who don't know about our subjects to bring back, hopefully, a good memory of their youth. You know, back when things were better, when they were worse. At any rate, that wraps up all the information I have for this lesson. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom Lesson 101, Introduction to School of Boredom. We hope you join us next time because you never know what we'll bring to the table. What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore lesson number 102, General Mills Monster Cereals. So let's begin by taking a look back. Look back to when it all began. In 1964, General Mills was making two main cereals, Wheaties and Cheerios. However, General Mills wanted to make other cereals and expand as a company, so they tasked their creative team to develop something new using a process that was already being used to make other cereals. The creative team came up with a very new and unique cereal, Lucky Charms. The cereal was iconic in that it was the first to contain marshmallow pieces.
Hey guys, fun fact, the marshmallow bits are also called Marbits.
They also began sugar-coating the oat cereal parts of Lucky Charms. This process led to the cereal growing a lot in popularity. The General Mills marketing team noticed that the cereal's sales greatly improved if they changed the marshmallow shapes every now and then. This helps us to understand why nowadays cereal's marshmallow shapes are constantly changing.
Another groundbreaking addition was the ability to send away for cool prizes.
The toy prizes included in the cereal boxes included items ranging from anything between keychains, plastic figures, candy, piggy banks, water toys, toy cars, and so much more. But more on that later on. In 1971, following the success of Lucky Charms, General Mills had the brilliant idea to introduce the monster-themed cereal line, a line of whole-grain corn breakfast cereals based on historically famous monsters. As it begins, we see Count Chocula and Frankenberry as friends, arguing over whose cereal is the most monstrously delicious. Someone or something would always interrupt their arguing and scare them.
For monstrous chocolate flavor.
Well, I got berry-flavored sweeties for monster strawberry flavor.
Count Chocula.
Frankenberry.
Hi.
Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
So, we just learned that although they are monsters, they are easily frightened and could even be spooked by their own shadows. Count Chocula was introduced in March of 1971, along with Frankenberry, but more on him in just a few minutes. Count Alfred Chocula, and yes, that is his official name, was the only chocolate-flavored cereal on the market at the time, paving the way for other cereals to use this option. The character himself was modeled after Count Dracula, obviously.
Who's that? Good morning.
Real Dracula.
For real?
A man named George Carn is responsible for drawing Count Chocula, while he was voiced by a voiceover actor named Larry Kinney.
And fun fact, I bet you didn't know that George Carn also drew the Trix Rabbit.
Mr. Larry Kinney used the infamous Transylvanian accent for the voice of Count Chocula. General Mills also came up with another winning cereal idea, Frankenberry. It was introduced at the same time as Count Chocula and was the only strawberry-flavored cereal on the market at the time, also paving the way for competitors. They decided to model Frankenberry after the infamous Frankenstein's monster, and was voiced by Bob McFadden.
Sweet new cereal, Count Chocula.
Pickle, I've got berry-flavored sweeties for monstrous strong.
For those who don't know, Boris Karloff is an iconic horror movie actor, most well known for his role in the movie Frankenstein back in 1931. Then in February of 1972, in an event that seemed to creep up on people from behind, it was found that Frankenberry cereal was turning children's feces pink. This occurred in people due to an inability to break down the heavily dyed breakfast cereal. This diagnosis would later be referred to as Frankenberry stool, and that is official. This side effect occurred due to the cereal containing dyes red number 2 and red number 3.
When combined, these dyes are chemically known as amaranth.
Amaranth is a synthetic color named after the multicolored flowers. This dye cannot be broken down or absorbed by human beings. There was much research done by the FDA, or Food and Drug Administration, to determine whether or not the dye was actually harmful. Founded in 1906, the FDA is responsible for protecting and promoting public health. One of the many things the FDA is responsible for, and especially in the case of these cereals, is the supervision and regulation of food safety. There was also an independent test done by a Russian study that reported the dye was causing tumors in female rats. This research, in part, led to the removal of the dyes from the FDA's generally regarded as safe, or GRAS, list in 1976.
This action was also encouraged by the public and the possibility of it causing cancers.
And despite that, the FDA notes that 47 other countries on planet Earth, including Canada and the United Kingdom, still allow the use of red dye number 2. So if you're one of our friends overseas or up north, please check out your food labels before consuming. Anyway, getting back to the topic of the cereals, the cereal pieces were all originally made as small cylinders with a cross in the middle. In the updated versions, however, the monster cereals are character-shaped, kind of like the ghosts from Pac-Man. Then, as if these two cereals weren't great enough, General Mills once again introduced a new monster cereal. 1973 saw Blueberry cereal, which made up the third member of the original trio. Take a look.
Blueberry. My ghostly good blueberry flavored cereal, Blueberry, is part of this complete breakfast.
Who to you, Blueberry?
Frankenberry's got strawberry flavored marshmallows.
Count Chocula's got chocolate marshmallows.
But I've got blueberry flavored marshmallows.
Frankenberry.
Count Chocula.
And Blueberry.
Now, General Mills was on a roll with introducing another first in the market, only this time it was blueberry flavored. And just like the other monster cereals in this lineup, it also had marshmallow pieces. I'm sensing a theme here. The Blueberry character found his voice with voice actor Paul Frees.
And we are just full of facts today. Another fun fact is that Paul Frees also voiced the Pillsbury Doughboy.
However, unlike Chocula and Frankenberry, there was no specific monster to emulate, so Frees had some input on how Blueberry would sound. On the downside, Blueberry shared the same side effect as Frankenberry, only in this particular case, it turned people's feces a green color. This was due to Blueberry being made with blue dye number 1. Not long after the success of Count Chocula, Frankenberry, and Blueberry, General Mills attempted to introduce 2 new characters, but they were never quite as popular, and they were also ultimately discontinued after a pretty decent time on the shelves. One of those characters was Fruit Brute. He was introduced in 1974, but discontinued in 1982. The character for Fruit Brute was a silly werewolf wearing loudly colored overalls. He was created to scare Frankenberry and Count Chocula. However, the cereal itself had lime-flavored marshmallows.
Delicious Fruit Brute has fruit-flavored marshmallows for the howling good taste of fruit. Count Chocula's got chocolate marshmallows.
Frankenberry's got strawberry flavored marshmallows.
Fruit Brute with a howling good taste of fruit.
Yet another first in the market for General Mills.
I guess General Mills was really innovative back then, with coming out with brand new cereals and in different flavors.
Fruit Brute is considered a cult classic, and one of the biggest fans of this particular cereal is none other than Quentin Tarantino. He has put the box for Fruit Brute in both of his popular movies, Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. At least those are the ones we know of to date.
All of the monsters were childlike and kid-friendly, often arguing amongst themselves on which cereal had the better taste.
The last cereal made for the General Mills Monster Cereals line, although as of 2019 unofficially, was Fruity Yummy Mummy. He was introduced in 1987 to replace Fruit Brute, but he was discontinued in 1992. The Fruity Yummy Mummy was discovered by Count Chocula and Frankenberry when they fell through the side of a pyramid while inexplicably exploring in Egypt. Fruity Yummy Mummy was wrapped in rainbow wrappings and had vanilla-flavored marshmallows that were referred to as Monster Mallows.
Makes your tummy go yummy.
Monster Mallows in Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and now new Fruity Yummy Mummy cereal, part of this complete breakfast.
Makes your tummy go yummy.
Although General Mills never officially declared Fruity Yummy Mummy to be part of the Monster cereal collection, it is fondly remembered by many. Now, according to Terry Kirihara, Director of Research and Development for Big G, or General Mills, the Monster cereals were initially the same cereal shape, but each had its own distinct colors and flavors, along with color-matched marshmallow bits. The Monsters have been so missed that Betty Crocker released a Frankenberry and a Blueberry fruit roll-up, while General Mills released Count Chocula cereal bars. They were both limited-time items. In 2010, Frankenberry, Blueberry, and Count Chocula cereals were manufactured and sold only for a few months during the Halloween season, around September and October. The original trio of Frankenberry, Count Chocula, and Blueberry are neither sold or produced officially at any other time in the year. However, you can only get Fruit Brute and Fruity Yummy Mummy when General Mills decides to do a limited edition run, and it's worth noting that this does not always take place during the Halloween season. We have found some places online you can buy them during the rest of the year, but I wouldn't count on them being exactly fresh or cheap. There has also been repackaging and design updates carried out for the Monster cereals over the years. Fruit Brute, which was brought back after 31 years, and Fruity Yummy Mummy, which was brought back after 21 years, were included with the original three. In 2013, General Mills enlisted the help of artists from DC or Detective Comics to create new designs for the Monsters in time for Halloween. The winning designs revealed on August 6th of that year consisted of a Blueberry design by Jim Lee, a Count Chocula design by Mr. Terry Dodson, and a Frankenberry design by Dave Johnson. These new designs were only limited edition boxes and could prove very hard to find. With this relaunching, there were many changes, including the spelling of Fruit Brute, which changed from F-R-U-T-E instead of the original spelling F-R-U-I-T. Fruit Brute was also changed to multicolored frosted cherry-flavored cereal with marshmallows, and again it was ultimately discontinued in 2014. Fruity Yummy Mummy cereal changed to multicolored orange-flavored cereal with marshmallows, and again was also discontinued in 2014. This was the only time that all 5 cereals were on the shelf at the exact same time. In 2018, we did see more merchandise with the Monsters on them come out, like a board game and a puzzle. This led to some speculation that the cereals might be coming back year-round. This has not officially been confirmed by General Mills, but we can always hope. We here at Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom hope you enjoyed this ghoulishly goofy look at these monstrously fun cereals from the past that will hopefully always find a way to come back and haunt your well-balanced breakfasts. Thank you for joining us. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been School of Boredom Lesson Number 102, General Mills Monster Cereals. Please join us next time for Lesson Number 103. You never know what'll be hiding inside. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore Lesson Number 103, Toy Prize Inside. In today's lesson, we'll be taking another look at cereals from the past, only this time We're going to be digging deep inside the box past the cereal back to when there was something else inside there. You see, once upon a time, long ago in a faraway land, there used to be toys in your cereal boxes. See, back then you didn't have to go online and enter a stupid download code or get linked to a useless website in order to use your prize inside the cereal box. However, if you were really patient, you could save up your cereal box tops, because most cereal companies would send you a better toy if you sent them in.
In addition to the box tops, they usually did make you pay for shipping and handling, but the cost was usually under $5, so most of that you could either get from allowance or from the coins hidden in the couch.
The prizes in the cereal made you feel like you got something extra and special for picking that specific brand. The original idea to add toys to cereals was the brilliant idea of John Kellogg. In 1909, his company that made Kellogg's Corn Flakes had the first breakfast cereal toy. If you purchased 2 packages of Kellogg's Corn Flakes, you could get the funny Jungle Land moving picture book given to you by the store you purchased them from. This was changed by Kellogg's from receiving the book in the store to having you fill out a mail-in offer for a dime instead. By 1912, there had been 2.5 million books distributed. Other companies such as General Mills and Nabisco quickly followed Kellogg's example and started adding toys to their cereals as well. Kellogg's also began placing buttons into Pep cereal in 1945. The first set of Pep pins was 36 buttons featuring World War II U.S. military squadron insignias. Pep pins were so popular that they were expanded to include other pins. There were 5 series of comic characters and 18 different buttons in each set. If you wanted to collect all of them, you had to get all 90. Then in 1946, Watson Hendry invented the screw injection molding machine. It made thermoplastic and could be used to make toys faster and cheaper.
And a fun fact, this machine also could use recycled plastics to make the toys. See, they were even thinking about being green back then.
In the 1970s, Hendry also invented the first gas-assisted injected molding process.
With this process, they were able to produce complex but hollow prizes that cooled quickly.
It also improved the flexibility of design and strength of toy parts. This method reduced the production time, and there have been many articles written about the toy inside the box. Mostly about family battles over which cereal to buy based on the prize. Most cereal companies began following Kellogg's example with prizes such as terrariums and an Archie car inside boxes of alphabets, a Jackson 5 record, action pinball games, and glow-in-the-dark pens were included in Super Sugar Crisp. Star Trek badges were thrown into boxes of Sugar Smacks. Story scopes were put into Crunch Berries. A digital watch and state license plate was put into Honeycomb, and the Flintmobile into Fruity Pebbles, just to name a few. Then in 1974, the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, was studying this marketing tactic and putting very serious thought into banning it. However, cereal box toys and premium offers were still found in most cereal boxes up until the 1990s when they first began to disappear. This started due to lawsuits and child safety standards being raised. They found that some of the toys were too small and dangerous for younger kids. It was also shown that some of the materials used to make the toys weren't safe. Consumer advocate groups felt that these toys and giveaways were marketing sugary cereals to children. The toy prize inside had continued to fade into the 90s as fast food chains also started giving out toys with their children's meals. The final nail in the toy prize coffin, however, has been the cost and the addition of the internet. Because after all, online games and download codes are a lot cheaper to produce than including a plastic toy, making it appeal to companies that are trying to save money.
Food marketers used to spend 20% of the budget on toys and incentives, but now they only use 7% for the online games and codes.
Also, with the internet growth in the last few decades, kids are not as easy to entertain as they used to be, and getting a code for a game or a website they can see on their phone on the go might be a lot more appealing to them. Which means kids of 2018 are lucky if they get a dumb printout board game on the back of their cereal box or some digital code that requires the internet in order to enjoy. If you're really lucky, you can get a CD with one song on it that no one's ever heard, or a book that wasn't even good enough to be put into a bookstore.
One of the worst things of all to get in your cereal is the temporary tattoo. Not only are they usually lame designs, but they're not toys.
Us kids back then, we were fortunate in our youth because we got actual prizes in our cereal. Man, we got all kinds of cool stuff. Everything you could think of. We got toy cars, to small figurines, to little toys that fired discs, to yo-yos, something that would last longer than a one-time use.
Kellogg's, for example, used to have a set of Disney figures from shows such as Darkwing Duck, Gummy Bears, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, for those of us who know what that is.
Each set of these Disney figures consisted of 4 figures, and you were able to collect 1 figure per box of cereal. The figurines weren't much in the way of toys you could play with, but they were something you could physically touch, collect, and hold on to. And, with the right amount of imagination, I suppose you could play with them.
These toys are much better than just an internet code for a video you could probably find right here on YouTube for free. That happens a lot.
An example of some of the items you used to be able to get in these cereal boxes, provided you are at least currently in your 30s or 40s, included everything ranging from Hot Wheels cars, keychains, baseball and trading cards, cereal spoons, candy, and buildable toys, all things you could actually play with. Today, cereal box prize is used as a broader term in order to include digital codes and cheaper incentives to buy certain cereals. Nowadays, you pay for the character on the box rather than the cereal inside. Wouldn't it be nice if cereal companies could at least go back to adding cheap, cool little prizes in the boxes of corrugated bran puffs we all buy all the time, instead of a makeshift board game printed on the back of the box, especially when you're supposed to use the food you're going to eat as game pieces for the said board game?
Hey, wait a minute, Mr. Bats. I thought Granny always said don't play with your food.
Well, either Granny's super smack-a-grandkid senses just went off, or she's rolling over in her grave. So while the kids of today have their online personas, they will never know the excitement of being the kid to get the toy inside. Or maybe this is the reason why the toys inside the box have been phased out.
Get me those toys! Got him!
I can't even finish showing you that clip. If that was my kid, they would never eat cereal in my house ever again. So stay tuned for a surprise hidden in the video after the credit sequence. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this particular lesson. We hope you enjoyed this look back at a time when breakfast cereals used to contain toys, back when my generation was smart enough not to eat them. Hopefully in the future we can have our cool toys back for the kids of today and us kids of yesteryear. Thank you for joining us. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, lesson number 103, Toy Prize Inside. Join us next time for lesson number 104, where we'll be up bright and early next Saturday morning.
Let her snow, let her snow, let her snow. Oh, now cut it out. One of these days, that Mr. Waterman and I are going to have a showdown. Just like they have in those cowboy pictures, you know. Come walking down the street and they say, all right, partner, this here's it. You know why they always do this, boys and girls? Because their pants are always falling down. Well, let's see. We're up. What's the first thing we do when we're up? All the boys and girls shave, right? No, I don't mean that. We always have our breakfast. Let's check the Kellogg's cupboard to see. Better yet, let's go over to our magic Feel-O-Vision set. You know, all you have to do Yeah, think about something you want to eat for breakfast. Dial it in the magic field-o-vision, and presto, there it is. Let's see, this morning I think I'll have Kellogg's Rice Krispies. I'll just dial it in here. That'll work. Come on now, Kellogg's Rice Krispies there for you. Hey, that song really gets me in the mood for eating Kellogg's Rice Krispies, boys and girls, because I know how great Kellogg's Rice Krispies are. And the Magic Field-O-Vision set was real good to me this morning. Got me 2 packages. Just pour them in a bowl like so. I'm expecting the milkman to deliver the milk at any... Oh, there's the milk right there. Well, I didn't have my eyes open. There we are. Put a little sugar on. And a little milk. You know, Kellogg's Rice Krispies is a cereal that talks to you. Yes, that's right. You know, when you pour a little milk on Kellogg's Rice Krispies, they say, snap, crackle, and they say, snap, crackle, snap, crackle. Excuse me just a second at the telephone. Hello, this is Julius Pierpont Patkins.
Hello, this is Mr. Kellogg speaking.
Oh, yes, Mr. Kellogg. I was just talking to the boys and girls. Kellogg's Rice Krispies. What can I do for you this morning?
I was watching, and I believe the word you're searching for is pop.
Oh, that's what it is, of course. Gosh, I'm sorry I forgot.
Don't let it happen again.
No, sir. So remember, boys and girls, Kellogg's Rice Krispies, snap, crackle, and soda. Excuse me just a second. Hello?
This is Mr. Kellogg again.
Yes, I said snap, crackle, soda.
Pop, stupid.
Oh, really?
Pop, stupid.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kellogg. Goodbye, it won't happen again. Don't remember, boys and girls, Kellogg's Rice Krispies, they talk to you. They say snap, crackle, and pop, stupid. Oh, well. I think I said it right. I said pop, stupid.
Hello? Hello? How did you know it was me?
Oh, it's the professor. It's the wonder of Cape Blunder, Professor Wiener von Braun. Hello there, wonder of Cape Blunder.
Hello, this is Professor Wiener von Brr. Wiener von Brr. Round, the wonder of Cape Blunder.
Yes.
If you enjoyed our School of Boredom lesson, please don't forget to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our new content as soon as it comes out.
Hey, congratulations on finding the prize hidden in this video. The first 10 people to comment, I found the hidden Zombo toy in this video, will win a free Zombo sticker. Compliments of Macabre'Gorium Labs. Please click like, subscribe. You heard this just a few seconds ago. But, you know the deal. We love you. See you next time. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents the School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore Lesson 104, Dan Versus. Dan Versus is a Flash animated television series created by Dan Mandel and Chris Pearson. It originally aired on the Hub Network and was distributed by Starz Media. It aired from January 1st, 2011 until March 9th, 2013. In total, there were 3 seasons consisting of 53 episodes.
The Hub Network launched on October 10th, 2010, and ended on October 13th, 2014. It was replaced by Discovery Kids.
This show has 3 main characters, Dan, Chris, and Elise. There are a whole bunch of side characters that help shape the show, but they are not consistently in every episode. The main character, Dan, is unemployed and very cynical toward life, although it is safe to say he has a soft spot for animals. Dan himself is voiced by a man named Curtis Armstrong. You may have seen him in the Revenge of the Nerds movies, or know his voice as Snot in the Fox animation series American Dad. He also had a decent run as Robot from the Nickelodeon show Robot and Monster. Dan is very temperamental and has anger issues that usually come into play when he sees an injustice or feels that someone has wronged him. Sometimes the things that set him off are actually the wrongdoing of others, and sometimes it's just Dan being Dan. He was born on Halloween of 1985, and he currently lives in a rundown apartment in North Hollywood, California. He's usually seen wearing blue jeans, black shoes, and a t-shirt that says jerk on it. He also has black hair, green eyes, and a soul patch. He's short and unkempt and messy. Among his other issues, he's also lactose intolerant, and this comes up in many episodes as his stomach cramps him regularly. Growing up, Dan had to deal with a pretty rough childhood. As a result, he's easily angered, short-tempered, and impatient. When someone has wronged him, he feels forced to take revenge. However, his revenge attempts never turn out as they're supposed to, as they are usually outlandish schemes. His revenge schemes are kind of an eye for an eye type of revenge, like small children would do. They get him kicked out of places regularly, and he has been tear-gassed so many times he doesn't even notice, and has been maced so many times that he says it's tangier than tear gas.
You. I've been tear gassed so many times I don't even notice anymore.
Now, every good scheme needs a cohort, and for Dan, this cohort is Chris. Dan and Chris met at summer camp when they were younger. Chris saved Dan from being William Telled by some older camp bullies.
William Tell is a game where one person tries to shoot an apple off the head of someone else without hurting them using a bow and arrow.
At the summer camp, their friendship was further cemented when Chris helped Dan get revenge against the abusive camp counselor, Mr. Tedesco. Chris is Dan's sidekick and the complete opposite of Dan. Chris is also a pushover, making him extremely easy to be manipulated by Dan. Chris himself is voiced by a Canadian comedy actor named Dave Foley, whom some of you might remember from a show called Kids in the Hall, or the voice from Flick from Disney's A Bug's Life. He usually drives Dan around and funds Dan's revenge plans. He has an uncontrollable hunger and is often thwarted from eating by, you guessed it, Dan. Chris's look is a blue t-shirt, an orange overshirt, cargo pants, and white socks with brown flip-flops. He also sleepwalks and eats during his nightly journeys. Chris works for a temp agency, which makes him usually available for Dan's schemes. There are also many instances where Dan and Chris's relationship has been a little bit rocky, and they have been at odds with each other. For instance, there's an episode where Chris wins a prop from a sci-fi movie, and Dan believes that he should be the one to own it. So Dan tries this elaborate way to take it from Chris. In addition to Dan, Chris has a problem saying no to his wife Elise. Most commonly, Elise is wearing a white t-shirt with red trim, blue hip huggers, and red shoes, although we do see her in ninja outfits or other covert attire. The talents of Paget Brewster bring Elise to life. You may know her as Jamie Eckelberry in 2.5 Men, and she has lent her voice to many characters in cartoons, such as Bird Girl / Judy Ken Sebin on the Cartoon Network Adult Swim show, Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law. Elise is usually calm unless Dan is going to cause any physical harm to Chris. Dan's revenge schemes always irritate her. However, she continues to let Chris be involved. Elise works for some covert government agency and is always out on super secret missions. Sometimes the missions cause her to help Dan, as his revenge plan will serve her purposes too, or at least keep Chris busy while she works. Elise and Dan have a very complicated relationship, sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend vibe. They are always fighting and arguing with each other, but do have rare moments when they get along.
Are you at the hospital?
Of course! What have I been saying this whole time?
I'll be there in 5 minutes. And I am not happy!
Although any of Dan's plans that could result in any way of Chris getting hurt are very fast to incur the rage and wrath of Elise. During one episode, they are trapped together in a blizzard, which did bond them as uneasy friends.
Dan, I promise that if I survive, I will come back with help. Maybe.
And I promise if I survive, I'll lobotomize you.
So last of all, and one of the best, not to mention cast favorite around here characters, is Mr. Mumbles. In Season 1, Episode 5, Dan versus the Animal Shelter, Dan is trying to get the animal shelter across the street from his apartment closed as the animals bark and make noise all night long. Many hijinks ensue, and right before Dan blows up the animal shelter, he meets a cat. That cat is Mr. Mumbles, a small, fluffy, white and gray cat.
Dan initially thought Mr. Mumbles to be a male cat, but found out later it was a female. However, the name stayed.
Throughout the show, it is mentioned multiple times that Mr. Mumbles looks mangy, but Dan will tell you firsthand that is simply because she does not know how to lick herself. Dan absolutely loves Mr. Mumbles and is often calmed by her presence. She has helped him with revenge schemes by sporting a little ski mask or cape as needed. Dan also seems to be able to understand her meows, have conversations with her, including discussing his schemes.
Mr. Mumbles, have you seen my gas mask anywhere?
Mr. Mumbles is sweet and attached to Dan, but will scratch the heck out of Dan or freak out when scared. She is an intelligent cat, which helps her stay out of harm's way when helping Dan. Although she does like Elise, Mr. Mumbles does not like Chris and will bite and scratch him whenever possible. There are, of course, many side characters in this series, including Elise's parents and younger brother, Crunchy, and the sheriff, just to name a few. Another side character is Hortense. She is Dan's love interest for a while, but ends up marrying someone else. Some of Dan's best schemes are introduced in episodes like Dan versus Canada, Dan versus Traffic, Dan versus the Wolfman, Dan versus Monster Under the Bed, Dan versus New Mexico, Dan versus the DMV, and one of the most funny Dan versus Chris. Well, that's about all the time we have today for Dan versus. It was a great show that turned out to be highly underrated in our opinion. We have all had an issue or day where we wish we could take revenge on an undue situation. This is what makes Dan versus a funny cartoon. So check it out for yourselves. I'm sure you will love it too. Well, that's about all the time we had for this lesson. Thank you for joining us at Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom. Lesson number 104, Dan versus. If you liked it, don't forget to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll see lesson number 105, Mad Balls, the grossest toy of the 1980s. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and we will see you next time. As usual, think for yourselves and keep it creepy. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore lesson number 105, Mad Balls, the grossest toy line of the 1980s.
Warning. The following program contains scenes which may offend some viewers. Others may experience mild discomfort, nagging backache, postnasal drip and delirium, followed by rapid heartbeat, swelling of the nose, throat, and abdomen, and loss of facial hair. Repeated viewing of this tape may result in the loss of one's bodily functions, redistribution of facial features, premature baldness, and a difficulty in forming simple sentences. So, if you're seriously considering a rewarding, challenging career as a lawn ornament, this is the show for you.
In an attempt to make this video a little more interesting, we're going to break it down into a few different parts. So without further ado, Part 1, the beginning. Mad Balls is a series of toy balls from the mid-1980s, 1986 to be exact. These toys were originally created by Amtoy, a subsidiary of American Greetings, a company we will showcase again in future lessons. Amtoy created a division called Those Characters from Cleveland, or TCFC, to help design toys for their company. You see, in the mid-1980s, a trading card company named Topps created a very strange trading card, and that trading card was the Garbage Pail Kids. It is important to note what Garbage Pail Kids are, as they had a direct influence in not only this lesson, but a handful of others that are coming soon. Now we'll come right back to that in just a moment. Early on, the American Greetings Company was producing toys like Care Bears, Holly Hobby, and Ziggy, along with a few others that were specifically marketed for young females. In a successful attempt to diversify their marketing range, the TCFC was tasked with creating a toy specifically marketed to young males. Semi-unexpectedly, however, this would also become a huge hit with young females.
So, I guess it doesn't matter who you are. We all enjoy a gross toy now and then.
Taking notes from another popular fad of the era, the Garbage Pail Kids, the team quickly went to work on creating some grotesque toys, and they would later become known as Mad Balls and My Pet Monster. The Garbage Pail Kids is a trading card / sticker collectible that is parodying the very popular dolls known as the Cabbage Patch Kids. Only these kids are far from adorably annoying, but instead were disgusting and gave us hours of jokes and gross out good times.
Not to mention all the making fun of your friends that had the same names as those on the cards.
Mad Balls would eventually go on to become a national success and a huge fad of the era, not to mention the topic for this very lesson. The original concept for Mad Balls is based on that of Hot Potato, and there was even an unofficial contest to see who could draw the most grotesque face. The winning designs were some of those used as the original Mad Balls. Mad Balls was and is a toy for all ages that consists of various baseball-sized foam rubber balls designed to look like gross monsters or creatures. The original run would span 2 series and a couple of mini-series. Series 1 consisted of Screamin' Mimi, which was a screaming baseball with a large tongue. Slobulus Aurelius, a drooling green creature with one eye hanging out and a goofy look on his face. Arg, a one-eyed Frankenstein monster-style creature with stitching all over his face. Hornhead, a horned cyclops with a giant nose ring. Dustbrain, a mummy with rotting teeth and wrinkled teal skin. Oculus Orbis, probably one of the most popular, is a bloodshot eyeball, plain and simple. Skullface, a skull with large eye sockets with teeny tiny red eyes and a big set of exposed teeth. He also has a partially exposed brain. Which brings us to Bash Brain. Bash Brain is a red-skinned zombie with a partially exposed brain. When Mad Balls were released, they were an instant success and flew off of Toys R Us shelves. For those of you that don't know, Toys R Us was a toys-only toy store that recently closed down here in Washington State. One highly interactive store that actually encouraged parents to let their kids play while they shopped. Mad Balls originally sold in these stores for $3.99, which made it very easy for kids to convince their parents to buy them for them. But with the popularity of these toys came a fair amount of complications. The first generation was made out of a hard rubber, and that resulted in serious bruising as kids were throwing them at each other. After all, they were balls. Facing possible legal problems from parents of injured children, the material was switched to a softer foam for future series. Another problem that was involved with the first series was that somebody chose the name Crackhead to describe the split-skulled Madball. Now, Amtoy may have thought at first that this was a good name, but pretty much as soon as it was released, they did face some backlash.
Now, this backlash was caused because crackhead is a street slang term, usually associated with a description of someone who uses the highly addicting, terrible drug, crack cocaine. Kids, don't smoke crack.
Crack is whack, yo, and you know what? That's probably why they changed his name to Bash Brain. Seemed a little more fitting. Which brings us to the second series of Madballs, which included Snakebait, a forked tongue Gorgon. Freaky Fullback, a mutant American football player. Bruise Brother, an ugly biker with a battered blue helmet. Wolf Breath, a werewolf with large rotten fangs dripping with blood. Fist Face, a severed hand clutching an eyeball. Swine Sucker, an ugly, drooling boar. And finally, Lock Lips, a creature with its jaw locked shut and one eye covered by a riveted metal plate. Next up was Head-Popping Madballs, a posable figure with interchanging heads. That set consisted of Dust Brain, Skullface, Screamin' Mimi, Oculus Orbis, Hornhead, Slobulus Aurelius, Bruise Brother, Wolf Breath, and Lock Lips. With all the success Madballs was having, other companies tried to make similar toys. There were the Blurp Balls, made by the Ertl Company, Weird Balls by the Mel Appel Company, and Spit Balls by Leonard Toys, but none of them were as widely liked as the Madballs. Unlike other toys of the 1980s, this particular franchise never got the cartoon treatment.
Now this was surprising, as most toys from the 80s were designed specifically to sell you toys.
However, there are two direct-to-home video releases. One of those was Escape from Orb, a 22-minute in length video released in 1986, was the first, and it featured a girl Madball named Freakella, who looked like the Bride of Frankenstein. Much like other cartoons we have showcased, you guessed it, this one had an awesome theme song as well. Here, let's have a listen.
Great balls of fire, let me love, never thought it was funny. Came along and moved me, honey. I changed my mind, this love is fine. Goodness gracious, great balls of fire.
The plot for the story was simple. The Madballs are a rock band living on an oppressive planet, and they just want to come to Earth to rock out and enjoy freedom.
Also in 1986, Marvel Comics subsidiary Star Comics released a 3-issue comic book.
The second Madballs video was released in 1987, and it was titled Madballs Gross Jokes. It was also 22 minutes, and had the Madballs performing skits similar to that of Monty Python.
Now for those of you who don't know what Monty Python is, it was a British comedy group that did sketch comedy. It first aired on BBC in 1969. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet, it's pretty funny.
There was a bi-monthly comic book released in 1987. However, the comic book was cancelled after reaching issue number 10. Then later in 1988, a Madballs annual was released by Marvel as a hardback graphic novel. This story centered around the origin of the Madballs and their creator, Dr. Frankenbeans. He attempted to control the Madballs, which results in hilarious antics. The book also included games and activities. In 1988, Ocean Software produced a video game for the 8-bit home computer. It didn't really receive good reviews due to its bird's eye view, however. Flash forward to 2006, where the company Art Asylum partners with American Greetings to bring back the Madballs using the old designs and bringing some new characters to life. Series 1 from Art Asylum Mad Balls featured 5 original Mad Balls and 1 new one to add to the line. This consisted of Bash Brain, Hornhead, Repvile, Screamin' Mimi, Skullface, and of course, Slobulus Aurelius. Repvile is a blue, scaly reptile creature which fits in nicely with the other Mad Balls crew. Basic Fun Incorporated worked on production and selling of the new Mad Balls, and they were designed by one of the original artists, James Groman. Here in the US, we started to see this fun toy reappear on store shelves around 2007. Art Asylum created Series 2 in 2008, and it included another 5 from the original line with, again, 1 new one. And this set consisted of Dust Brain, Swinesucker, Freaky Fullback, Oculus Orbis, Wolf Breath, and Blackbeard. Blackbeard was an ugly pirate with pus dripping from his eye, an eye patch, a hook holding up his eyelid, and a bandana on top of his head. Series 3 was seen at the Toy Fair in 2009 with new toys, and most of the pictures can still be found online. There was Snakebait, Fist Face, and Lock Lips with the new Mad Balls, Puck Teeth, Nail Biter, and Mosh Pits. Art Asylum also had a 4th series in the works when the 3rd was shown in 2009. There are also pictures of those on the internet. And that means it's time to segue on to Part 2. Part 2. Mad Balls Lost? This would be the final series designed by Art Asylum, as there was a merger between Basic Fun and Good Stuff Incorporated.
Unfortunately, Mad Balls was lost by the merger.
But there was another video game released in 2009, Mad Balls in Babbo Invasion.
And just so you know, you can find gameplay of this game on our partner channel, MGL Plays.
Mad Balls Babbo Invasion was developed by a company called Playbrains and distributed on Xbox Live Arcade in 2009. It was later released for Microsoft Windows in September of 2009. This game was a shooter with a bird's eye view. You roll your Babbo through a labyrinth-style map, fighting enemies, solving puzzles, and attempting to kill bosses. There are 10 Babbos in total, each with different abilities and stats. This game had mixed reviews from Xbox Live Arcade critics, and the graphics and gameplay were reviewed as good, but the characters annoyed players to no end. Despite all of that, hardcore fans of Mad Balls liked the game for the most part, myself included. And that means it's time to move on to Part 3. Part 3. Back again. Over the years, there have been many changes to the toy's design in order to keep consumers happy without them feeling that the toy is considered too gross. At the 2015 San Diego Comic-Con, Mondo had some examples of the returning Mad Balls, but they were now called Mondo Balls. Mondo released Mondo Balls with Skullface, Hornhead, and Slobulus leading the pack. Although they are part of the original Mad Balls, they have been updated with an amazing amount of detail. The Mondo Balls are affordably priced vinyl ball figures from a variety of genres. Mondo eventually signed a deal with Marvel Comics to bring their characters to life, the first of which being Venom. Future Mondo Ball sets were planned for both Gremlins and the Friday the 13th movies.
Now, it is important to know that Mondo Balls are a collectible, and they are not a toy to play with.
Now we hop on over to the spring of 2017, where American Greetings and Just Play teamed up to make a kid-friendly line of Mad Balls. Kid Robot also teamed up with American Greetings and produced a Mad Balls collection of merchandise to go with the toys. This series also included 16 of the Mad Balls from the original toy line. Part 4, the wrap-up. Now we're here in 2019, and a lot of us are very happy that Mad Balls didn't disappear from our lives like most of the toys from our youth. Hopefully, we will always be able to share this disgustingly adorable and cool toy with our children, not to mention play with it ourselves. This also goes to show that some toys can just be timeless and will remain fun no matter what stage of life you are in. Well, that about wraps up all the time we had planned for this lesson. We hope you enjoyed this awesomely disgusting look into the past. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, lesson number 105, Mad Balls, the grossest toy of the 1980s. Join us next time for lesson number 106. You never know what we have in store. And remember, think for yourselves, and as always, keep it creepy. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. As you probably guessed, my name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore lesson number 106, Brickleberry, the underrated show that knew exactly what it was doing. Before we get started, it is really important to note that this show is not intended for younger viewers or children, or most adults for that matter. This show falls into the same category as South Park and Drawn Together. Brickleberry shares their limit-breaking comedy, boundary-pushing jokes, and extreme knack for being edgy. So in short, if you do not like South Park or Drawn Together style shows, or you're too young to watch them, maybe go check out a different one of our School of Boredom lessons more suited to you. That being said, let's move forward. Brickleberry was a North American animated series aimed toward adults. Airing between 2012 through 2015 with 3 seasons spanning 36 complete episodes in total. The series had 2 creators, Waco O'Gwen and Roger Black.
The inspiration for Brickleberry came from Mr. O'Gwen's father-in-law being a former park ranger named Woody.
Originally, the show was supposed to be live action, but it became animated due to budget restraints. Then, in 2007, Fox Broadcasting Company had a pilot, but passed up the show as they thought it was too offensive. So the duo's agent connected them to comedian Daniel Tosh, who was getting very popular due to his Comedy Central show, Tosh.0. He quickly signed on to the project and pitched the show to Comedy Central, which we all know shows the very popular show, South Park. Comedy Central passed on the new pitch, and so they took the show to Adult Swim. Adult Swim saw the potential immediately and was ready and prepared to order 10 episodes. Comedy Central then relented and purchased the show, ordering 10 episodes for Season 1 in 2011. So, without further ado, let's get to know the visionary creators behind this masterpiece. First up is Waco O'Gwen. Waco is an American animator, actor, voice actor, comedian, producer, and writer. He was born on June 24th, 1975 in Lakeland, Georgia. He is a very talented man who, as a youngster, won a national drawing contest to draw Homer Simpson. Later on, but still earlier in his career, he co-created and starred in MTV2's Stankervision, The Damn Show, and a series on Turner's now-ended comedy webpage, Super Deluxe.
As previously mentioned, Stankervision was on MTV2 and was a repackaging of The Damn Show. The Damn Show was an underground sketch comedy show, and Super Deluxe was a digital comedy website.
After this, he would go on to create the awesome and totally underrated show, Brickleberry. Which brings us to the other half of this amazing duo, Roger Black. Roger Black is an American insult comedian, actor, voice actor, animator, writer, and producer, most well known as Yucko the Clown.
At one point, Yucko the Clown became a guest on The Howard Stern Show by carrying a Howard Stern sign and running onto the field during a baseball game.
Roger also co-starred with Waco O'Gwen on The Damn Show and Stankervision, although he was not on the Super Deluxe website. In 2015, unfortunately, Brickleberry would be canceled. However, in 2018, the duo would create a show for Netflix called Paradise PD.
You put me in this coma. you little brickleberry-looking bitch.
Fitz, that's a totally different show.
But we aren't going to be talking about that because we are fans of the only show that matters, and that's Brickleberry. And if you don't like that, well, you can just...
I told you. They're park rangers, we're cops. Totally different.
And now for the meat and potatoes of this lesson, let's talk about Brickleberry itself. Brickleberry is an unexpected animated sitcom that revolves around the lives of a group of eccentric park rangers that work and live in the fictional national park of Brickleberry, close to Hazelhurst, Illinois. And you wouldn't expect half the hijinks that ensue. Before we get into the Rangers of Brickleberry, it is important to note that Brickleberry creates its own type of humor. Brickleberry was executive produced by Daniel Tosh, whom also voiced one of the main characters, but more on him in a few minutes.
Daniel Tosh is an American comedian, TV host, actor, writer, and producer, with a be offensive to everybody, so nobody cares comedy style.
Indeed. Now with that being said, Brickleberry's humor ranges from off-color comedy to downright insulting the audience. This show had a lot to offer if you're someone that can understand the spirit of the humor and are not easily offended. Social justice warriors might want to avoid this one. Brickleberry includes a whole cast of memorable characters. Let's take a look at some of them now. First up is Woody Woodrow Johnson. Woody Johnson is voiced by a man we will be talking about a lot on this channel, and that man is Mr. Tom Kenny. Since we will be featuring him in his own video later on down the line, we won't talk too much about him here. Just know his voice can be heard in almost every cartoon made in the last 25 years or so.
That's right, Mr. Bats, but I do need to mention he voices characters in many popular cartoons, like Rocko's Modern Life, Adventure Time, and of course SpongeBob SquarePants, just name a very few.
Woody is the 55-year-old abrasive head park ranger at Brickleberry. He has a dark military past that he doesn't like to talk about. We do find out that he's also a war criminal, and this comes up numerous times in the series. Along with multiple other things, he was also a top adult movie actor named
Rexerection,
which he enjoyed doing until he was unable to perform properly. Woody always has Brickleberry's best interests in mind. He is constantly trying to boost tourism in the park and make the park better, usually resulting in some hilarious hijinks.
A hairy dinosaur dick with wings?
That is brilliant! We'll swoop down and laser gun the bastards!
Yeah!
That's it!
I love weed!
Connie! Call NASA! We need a Jurassic rocket and a shitload more Funyuns!
We're dead. His mother was also a whole ball of crazy. In Season 3, we find out that Woody's mother, who physically abused him, is actually alive and getting kicked out of her nursing home. Now let's discuss the mostly incompetent park rangers that Woody has to deal with on a daily basis. First up is Steve Williams. Steve Williams is a character that is featured prominently throughout the series and voiced by the talented David Herman. Steve is a bumbling, overconfident doofus that takes his career way too seriously. He believes he is a great park ranger, as he has been awarded the Ranger of the Month title every month.
We later also find out that the only reason Steve has ever accomplished anything in his life is because his mother would...
Simple. Your mom had sex with me to get you a job here. And every month since, so you can be Ranger of the Month, even though you suck.
What? But I earned this medal. I'm not a bad ranger.
Yeah, just like my balls ain't slapping around on your mom's ass crack.
Despite this detail, he holds his title with pride, as he aspires to be like his father, who was also a Brickleberry Park Ranger, a joke that comes up often in the show. He had dreamed of working at Brickleberry since he was a kid and was raised in the park. However, determination alone wasn't enough to accomplish his goals. Plus, he is not that smart and has no common sense, which can lead to some pretty funny situations.
It is also shown in the series that Steve has a huge man crush on Lord of the Rings actor Viggo Mortensen.
Another joke that comes up often. But next up is Connie Kuhneman. Our next ranger is Connie Kuhneman, who is voiced by Roger Black. Connie is extremely strong, a trait she attributes to being a lesbian, and she's also often mistaken for a coat rack.
Read my life.
She refers to her strength as her lesbian strength, and it enables her to lift a lot of super heavy items such as trees, bears, and even an atom bomb.
Oh, no, you didn't!
One of her biggest character development points is that she's obsessed with the park ranger Ethel, another park ranger we will mention in this video, and when Connie is around Ethel, her lady parts make a growling noise.
Don't mind him. I'm Connie, by the way. Whoa. Did you feel that? I think our periods just synchronized.
Her parents were evangelical Christians and abandoned her for being a lesbian. There are some episodes where she tries to fit into her parents' idea of a perfect daughter, but usually goes back to being her true self. And rightfully so. Next up on our list is Denzel Jackson. Denzel Jackson is the only African-American ranger and is extremely bad at his job. This is due to him being scared of bugs, snakes, and almost everything in the woods. However, he can't be fired because he works for a government agency. It's important to mention that he's also a gerontophile.
For those that don't know, a gerontophile is someone that is physically attracted to the elderly.
It is revealed in the series that Denzel's father, father's father, and grandfather's father were undercover cops, but Denzel has no interest in getting shot, and this is only mentioned once in the series. There are also references made to his marijuana use as a reason for him being so lazy and terrible at his job, although that is far from the actual reason.
Why? Because all black men love weed?
No, because you love weed. Look at your shirt.
Oh, that's right. Who don't like smoking up?
I don't, because I'm not in the 6th grade and I have shit to do.
Our next ranger came to Brickleberry from Yellowstone National Park and was introduced in the very first episode. Her name is Ethel Anderson. Ethel Anderson is a 25-year-old ranger voiced by Caitlin Olsen in Season 1 and Natasha Leggero in Seasons 2 and 3. Although Ethel is an extraordinary ranger, as long as she doesn't drink, she does try to be nice to her co-workers and assist with the park's problems. And now we have come to the most memorable, albeit annoying character in the show, Malloy the Bear Cub. Malloy is voiced by Daniel Tosh and is the last member of his species, Ursus loquacius. When Malloy was young, Steve accidentally ran over and shot his parents, although Malloy is told that tourists did it. Woody adopted Malloy and raised him in the ranger station as a therapy pet. Malloy plays video games and eats junk food. He's also rude, racist, sexist, narcissistic, and has a superiority complex. What more could you want from a character? He hates all of the rangers and loves to put them down as much as possible. Once Malloy learns that it was actually Steve who killed his parents, he doubles in his efforts to mess with him. In one of the episodes, it is shown that there is actually one more member of Malloy's species. Unfortunately, she is murdered by the end of the episode. There are also several characters in this show that are not main characters, but do deserve to be mentioned in this lesson. So we're going to handle them in a list-like process. First up, we have Bobby Possum Cods. Bobby is a redneck that lives in a trailer in Brickleberry Park. He's racist and really loves the animals in an inappropriate way. In the first episode, Malloy finds this out firsthand and is less than happy about it.
Boy, I am stuffed.
You bout to be.
But fear not, he's alright.
Do I look alright? Because if I do, that means you didn't notice there's a man inside of me.
Next up, we have Bodine. Bodine is voiced by Roger Black and is Bobby Possum Cod's sidekick and best friend. Bodine speaks quickly and tends to ramble on without thinking. This often includes giving information to others that Bobby would rather keep quiet. For instance, in the episode Brickleberry Trailer Park, where Bobby owns Brickleberry Park, Bodine tells everyone in town about it, and the park ends up flooded with other rednecks and trailers until Bobby eventually gives the park back to the Rangers.
On the head so hard it made my Peter shrink back up inside me.
Hold on, he ain't charging no rent?
Yeah, but I'm smart, so I didn't tell nobody. How much I owe you for the potty made all?
I'm gonna let this next character introduce himself.
I'm Firecracker Jim, goddammit!
Firecracker Jim is also voiced by Roger Black. He's a local redneck that sells illegal fireworks. Jim has no arms or legs, as he blew them off, and so he rolls around to get everywhere. He has the stereotypical obese wife and lives in a trailer too. Anytime Brickleberry needs fireworks or something illegal, Firecracker Jim is the first person they call. And with all these limbs flying around and accidents happening left and right, it's a good thing they had Dr. Kuzniak, who's up next. Dr. Kuzniak is voiced by Tom Kenny, and he is Brickleberry's personal doctor. We find out in one episode that he doesn't have a medical license anymore. He has an obsession with medical malpractice and will fix just about any medical problem that arises. And trust me, there are some crazy ones. As you might have guessed, Dr. Kuzniak has a lot of questionable medical practices, such as the dumping of medical waste into a lake in Brickleberry Park. The last character on our list isn't in this series much, but is funny enough to deserve some attention, and that guy is Jorge. Jorge is voiced by David Herman and runs the strip club with some of the nastiest looking strippers ever. In addition to his other attributes, Jorge also has a low intelligence and is very gullible. Ultimately, Brickleberry was canceled on January 7th, 2015 by Comedy Central, with Paradise PD premiering in 2018. It's not meant to be an official spin-off, but it is considered by many as a spin-off. This being due to the fact that it has a similar story plot, characters, and voice actors.
I told you, they're park rangers, we're cops. Totally different.
Lucky for us fans of Brickleberry, in 2016 there was a 4-issue miniseries created by Dynamite Comics that came out and picked up right where Brickleberry had left off. This miniseries was written by co-creators Waco Ogwin and Roger Black. It was illustrated by Timothy Hopkins. For the most part, this series takes place right after the show ended, so if you need your Brickleberry fix, check that out too. Brickleberry has many fans, including most of our cast members, but with that comes a lot of critics as well. Even though nothing was off the table as far as jokes are concerned, this show was not made to be known for being offensive just to shock people. There is a lot that could offend people, but sometimes we just need to laugh and not concentrate on the perceived negative aspects of a show. Waco Ogwin has also commented, "All targets are fair game, and if you're clever and don't just try to shock for shock's sake, you can make most anything funny." Well, that about wraps up all the time we had for today's lesson. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been lesson number 106, Brickleberry, the show that knew exactly what it was doing. Please join us next time for lesson number 107. You never know what we have in store. And remember, think for yourselves. Keep it creepy. Previously on Macabre'Gorium Labs. Ultimately, Brickleberry was canceled on January 7th, 2015 by Comedy Central, with Paradise PD premiering in 2018. It's not meant to be an official spin-off, but it is considered by many as a spin-off. This being due to the fact that it has a similar story plot, characters, and voice actors.
I told you, they're park rangers, we're cops. Totally different.
Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. As you probably guessed, my name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we take a look at a continuation from our lesson number 106, Brickleberry, the most underrated show that knew exactly what it was doing by diving deep into Paradise PD. A new Brickleberry? In our School of Boredom lesson number 106, Brickleberry, we briefly discussed Paradise PD, and after so much success, at least as far as we're concerned on that video with likes and view time, we decided to bring you its counterpart by making a full video about Paradise PD. It is important to note that Paradise PD is not a spin-off of Brickleberry.
I told you, they're park rangers, we're cops. Totally different. Anyway, Denzel.
Although it does have many similarities, from characters to throwback lines, today we're going to discuss the similarities between the two, as well as the continuity of Paradise PD itself. Before we get started, I feel it important to mention that this is your spoiler alert. You cannot get mad at us if you continue watching this video before you have watched Paradise PD. So to begin with, Paradise PD was also created by the awesome creators Waco Ogwin and Roger Black. Paradise PD is about a small-town police department where they try to protect a town that has a lot of criminal activity. Paradise PD also shares the same type of jokes and humor, as well as making fun of people, just like Brickleberry. No one is safe. The first season of Paradise PD was originally released on Netflix on August 31st of 2018, with a Season 2 released on March 6th, 2020. Well, you've come this far, so now let's get to know the main cast of Paradise PD. First up onto the spotlight, we got Gina Jabowski. She is very violent and is the most feared police officer in Paradise PD. She is obsessed with another officer, Dusty, who we will discuss next. However, he has no interest in her, kind of how Connie was obsessed with Ethel in Brickleberry.
Yeah, foghorn in my Peter, Article 7, Paragraph 2.
The next officer we're going to take a look at is Dusty Marlowe. Dusty is a 650-pound, morbidly obese, naive police officer that Gina is uncomfortably and overly affectionate towards. Dusty is a happy, simple man with severe diabetes that owns several cats and spends most of his money on their care. This relationship between Gina and Dusty is once again similar to that of Connie and Ethel from Brickleberry.
You want a hit?
Our next officer on the list is Gerald Fitzgerald. He has severe PTSD, which greatly inhibits his ability to do police work. He has had counseling for his PTSD and has been taught to use Buddhist meditation and playing a piccolo to calm his anxiety. This association treatment is very similar to the kind of relationship that Woody and Malloy have in Brickleberry, since Malloy acts as a therapy pet to help calm Woody's anxiety.
Aw, Malloy.
I bet you'd like to see my tight ass in that, you creepy pervert.
Next up on our list, we have Officer Stanley Hobson. Not a lot is known about Hobson, except that he was born in 1843. That's right, 1843, making him over 120 years old.
Fun fact, Stanley Hobson only works at Paradise PD at this point because they do not have the funds to pay for his retirement.
There isn't a whole lot we're willing to say here about Hobson. Some things are best discovered on your own, so do yourself a favor and check out Paradise PD on Netflix to find out more about this very eccentric character.
Oh, don't you yell at me, Mickey Rooney, you son of a bitch.
The last officer on our list is Kevin Pube Salad Crawford. And yes, I did just say pube salad. He is the newest hire to the Paradise PD and is trying to show his dad that he can be a good cop. Due to an accident that happened when Kevin was 5, his father stopped him from being a police officer as he thought Kevin was a safety risk. Although some episodes of the show do show that Kevin could be a better cop if there was new equipment and funding for him to use, he is usually incompetent. This character kind of reminds me of Ethel from Brickleberry, as she's always trying to find ways to make the park better while doing humanitarian things like raising funds for the orphan baby animal sanctuary. Also, just like Steve in Brickleberry, Kevin is always trying to prove to his father that he can be a good cop. Just like Steve is always trying to prove to Woody that he can be a good ranger. And we all know Brickleberry had Malloy, and Paradise PD has a character named Bullet. Bullet, much like Denzel, loves marijuana, but he will do any drug at any time he can, with his favorite drug being cocaine. Bullet was once a great police drug dog, but his drug addiction constantly gets him in trouble as he uses most of the drugs in the evidence locker on a pretty consistent basis.
who wants some drugs?
Now, of course, there has to be a leader for this ragtag group of misfits, and that's where Chief Randall Crawford comes in. Chief Randall Crawford is the father of Kevin Crawford and is the police chief in Paradise. He was once a proud, masculine officer, but after Kevin accidentally shot him in the family jewels when he was 5, the chief has been having a testosterone problem.
You know you aren't supposed to wear more than one of those at a time. Let's not get crazy here, Dad. You're kind of starting to turn red. Not the other arm!
This has made the chief bitter and led to the eventual ending of his marriage. Chief Crawford was married to the now mayor of Paradise, Karen Crawford. The first season of this show consists of the Paradise PD gang trying to stop the sale of, well, I'll let them tell you.
I'll be remembered beyond death for inventing Argyle meth.
That has recently surfaced in Paradise. Since his mother, Karen Crawford, is the mayor of Paradise, she is always helping Kevin, especially when it will piss off Chief Crawford. Therefore, she makes Kevin a police officer, which makes Chief Crawford really mad, as he feels he will have to babysit Kevin. In order to keep Kevin safe, Chief Crawford sends him to be a crossing guard. But eventually Kevin decides to start his own investigation into the Kingpin. Hijinks ensue as we watch episode after episode of the Paradise PD officers fail to find the true Kingpin. Toward the end of the first season, in episode 9, Kevin finally gets his parents back together, after which they kick him out of the house and he's forced to live in the sewers with the Flipper people. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Moving on to the second season, we begin with Gina trying to bust Dusty out of the women's prison he was sent to, as she knows Dusty isn't the real Kingpin. Again, nothing out of the ordinary. Kevin's parents remarry officially, and we find out that Officer Fitz has made a lot of money by selling dipping dots since the town was made safe by Dusty's incarceration. We eventually find out that Fitz was the Kingpin all along, and he's now going to band together with some criminal associates and begin selling, which apparently is a much better product than... Around this point in time, FBI agents get involved, and Chief Crawford gets jealous of one FBI agent for his ability to catch criminals and the size of his family jewels. This is due to Karen Crawford's very specific interest, which leads Chief Crawford to fix his issue in a very unique and troubling way.
Big ball energy. I got that big ball energy.
Later on, we find that Karen Crawford is trying to get re-elected as mayor, so she legalizes...
I'm legalizing meth!
Which leads to Officer Fitz running against her. All of this forces the Paradise officers to flee Paradise and retreat to Brickleberry. That's right, folks! Can it be? It is a Brickleberry Paradise PD crossover.
Oh, this looks like the most unnecessary crossover ever.
With Woody being Chief Crawford's cousin, it seemed like a good place to go. While at Brickleberry, the Paradise PD officers help the Brickleberry Rangers find Malloy, who went missing.
So if you're not sure, check out our Brickleberry School of Boredom number 106 for more information about Malloy.
The second season ends with the Paradise PD officers learning that Officer Fitz is suffering from some past trauma, so they rush back to help the town of Paradise from being destroyed by nuclear weapons and effectively being turned into a giant deep dish pizza. Once again, nothing out of the ordinary here. The officers stop one nuke, but another nuke goes off the officers didn't know about that explodes the city of Paradise and most likely killed a lot of the residents. Season 2 then ends with the words, "The End?" and after a few seconds it then says, "No." There's been a lot of debate as to whether or not Paradise PD Season 3 will be coming out at all, but we did some research online. As of June 5th, 2020, Season 3 is supposed to come out March 5th, 2021 on Netflix. Well, that's about all the time we had for today's lesson. We hope you enjoyed this School of Boredom extra credit / addendum, Paradise PD. A new Brickleberry? And if you enjoyed Brickleberry, you're most likely going to enjoy Paradise PD, so I suggest you check it out for yourself. Good time, please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our new, creepy, weird, strange, obscure, and eccentric content as soon as it comes out. Either way, I've been your host, Bats. We hope you had a good time, and we'll see you next time. Think for yourselves. You guessed it. Keep it creepy. Also, just like Stephen Brickleberry, what's his name? Kevin.
Kevin.
Also, just like Stephen Brickleberry, Kevin is always trying to prove to Woody that he can be a good cop. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Mr. Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore lesson number 107, My Pet Monster, your creepy friend till the very end. In 1985, there were numerous friend-like kid toys, such as Teddy Ruxpin, the Cabbage Patch Kids, and of course, the creepy My Buddy. A well-timed addition to this friend-like toy line was created by Amtoy, a division of American Greetings.
Now, American Greetings is a company we've showcased before, and will again, I'm sure. They have lots of great products.
And then this awesome company released a new toy and a personal best friend for me in 1986. They allowed My Pet Monster to break into the toy scene.
For any of those fanatics that are out there keeping track, My Pet Monster debuted after Mad Balls, but before Boglins.
It just so happens that most plush dolls from back in that era were marketed specifically to girls. Boys did have G.I. Joe that many consider to be a male Barbie, but not really any plush toys. So the awesome American Greetings Company wanted to step into this demographic and market a plush toy to boys that would be scary, but not too scary. A lot of research from the time period showed that boys were having a large interest in toys and dolls that were specifically marketed to young females. See, it was a very different time back then, and girls usually got teddy bears and plush dolls that they could snuggle up with at night, while us boys were usually stuck with hard plastic toys that weren't really made for cuddling. See, us boys didn't really see Monster so much as a doll as he was a friend that would help us on our various adventures. The official television commercial emphasized that Monster was meant to be a friend, not a pet. Although it was proven to be helpful for lonely children as he was easy to share secrets with, play games with, and give lots and lots of hugs to.
My Pet Monster plays all day.
Tough.
Awesome.
Looking great.
And all your friends will want him for their friends, too.
My Pet Monster has breakaway chains from Amtoy and American Greetings Company.
Monster also served as a physical form of an imaginary friend, as well as a confidant for kids who didn't have one.
For those kids lucky enough to get a My Pet Monster, they were considered cool by their peers.
The highly colorful plush toy had blue fur, horns, a fanged smile, and was a toy fad popular of the era. My Pet Monster came with orange plastic chained handcuffs. The handcuffs could be broken by My Pet Monster via a breakaway link using his monster strength.
Monster's handcuffs were extra awesome, as they could also be worn by children so that they could simulate breaking that chain too.
Monster wasn't alone, as there were two monsters released as large plush toys. Their names were My Pet Monster and My Football Monster. My Football Monster was a purple variation with a different nose and 4 teeth that were pointing upward. He also came with the original handcuffs, but also included a t-shirt and football helmet. Now, over the years, there have been several versions of the plush released in various shapes and sizes, each with different attributes. One such version was a 22-inch tall talking My Pet Monster that was redesigned and re-released in 2001 by the Toymax Toy Company. These monsters came in 16, 20, and 26-inch sizes. However, the 16-inch size had a plastic mouth instead of the furry mouth that was on the larger monsters.
And here's a little fun fact. By winter of 1987, approximately 95% of the world had one of these awesome toys.
My Pet Monster was most popular during the late 80s and early 90s, with both a cartoon and a direct-to-video movie. The movie went into development in 1985 and was released in 1986. This movie begins by telling the story of Max and his sister Melanie, who are going on a school field trip to the museum. During the trip, he finds a mysterious set of statues, one of which looks suspiciously like our friend, the monster. After dropping his apple next to the statue, he approaches the statue right as a beam of sunlight hits it, and he becomes cursed. Max is then briefly transformed into a hairy blue monster before changing back to his human form. Naturally, Max is very upset about turning into Monster, but Melanie thinks it is awesome. From that point, he would change back into Monster anytime he was hungry. The statues were brought from the Middle East by the movie's villain, Dr. Snyder. Snyder has been attempting to unlock the statue's power for years. After discovering Max has gained the power of the monster, he sets out to capture Max and Melanie to boost his career and gain the power of the monster himself. However, he doesn't have anything that can match Monster's strength, so capturing them won't be easy. In typical 80s fashion, when he finally does capture the kids, they are able to escape, not to mention make it home in time to ruin a date for their older brother Rod. And also along with these wonderful 1980s movies tropes, in the movie, Max, as Monster, poses as a dog in a dog show to aid in the capture of several men trying to cheat at the dog show. Max is then changed back into a boy for no particular reason after talking with his sister Melanie. And then the movie ends by implying that Dr. Snyder gains the power of the monster after begging the statue. However, if you haven't guessed, this movie was very confusing with its backwards plot and dog show antics. The TV show, or animated series on the other hand, originally airing in 1987, was only one season long with 13 episodes. Despite the TV show being popular and well-liked, no more episodes have been ordered, much to the disappointment of fans.
Fun fact, the cartoon did not lead into the movie as most people think, but was in fact made almost 2 years after the movie.
The cartoon series was about friendship. It starts by telling us about Max, an underdog going to a toy store to look for a friend. He finds a purple monster with a pink face and orange handcuffs. Max buys the monster and hurries home to play with his new friend. Once home, he attempts to remove the handcuffs. But haha, when the handcuffs are off, Monster magically comes to life and he grows to 6 feet tall. Only Max, his sister Jill, and their friend Chucky know about Monster's secret. There are 2 villains in the cartoon series. Mr. Hinkle, a neighbor who always thinks Max is doing something wrong, he just isn't sure what. And of course, Beastier. Beastier is a large monster who hates light and is always trying to bring Monster back to Monsterland. However, Beastier, though large and intimidating, is bumbling and incompetent. One of his weaknesses is that he can be stopped using the magic handcuffs. The cuffs produce a light that will reduce him to a smaller monster and send him through a warp portal back to Monsterland. Beastier was a monster with dark purple fur, a black chest, blue eyebrows, yellow hair, and an orange plastic face. His nose is purple and he has a horn protruding in the middle of it. His mouth doesn't open and he has 2 teeth that go upward and 4 that go downward. He has black feet with blue nails. Included with this toy, of course, were the usual handcuffs. Beastier would always be the primary or secondary villain in the animated series. Since he hates light, he wears dark glasses to protect his sensitive eyes. which he can use to see in the dark. In the final episode, it does show that Beastier hates to be hugged, more so than being exposed to light. The series then shows the fun and hilarity that happens as the two try to hide Monster from Mr. Hinkle and try to keep him from being taken back to Monsterland by Beastier. And now, here's a little information about the animated series. The character Monster was voiced by Jeff McGibbon. McGibbon has provided voices for shows like Babar and TNT. There isn't a lot of information about other voiceover work he has done. However, McGibbon was in the Clarence TV movie in 1990 as Brent's classmate.
Now, the Clarence discussed here doesn't refer to Clarence on Cartoon Network, but is about an angel that returns to Earth to help people.
We will all remember My Pet Monster, though. The character Max was voiced by Sonny Beeson Thrasher. Thrasher, from Canada, has voiced several TV series cartoon voices. The character Jill was voiced by Allison Court. Court, also from Canada, is very well known as an actress and voice talent. She has provided voices in several TV series such as The Big Comfy Couch from 1992 to 2003, the X-Men animated series that ran from 1992 to 1997, and one of my personal favorites, the Beetlejuice animated series that ran from 1989 to 1991. The character Mr. Hinkle was voiced by Colin Fox. Also Canadian, Fox is a very well-known actor and voice actor. He has lent his talented voice to several TV series also, such as The Legend of Zelda in 1989, and again, one of my personal favorites, Beetlejuice in 1989, and The Matrix in 1993. A man named Dan Hennessy voiced the character Beastier. Hennessy is another known Canadian voice actor. He has appeared in other animated series such as Super Mario World, RoboCop, and Madballs, just to name a few. As you can see, these people often brought their talent together for various animated series.
That's right, Mr. Bats. In fact, almost all of the cast appeared in at least one episode of Care Bears.
And we are happy to enjoy the fruits of their labors. There were other characters added to the My Pet Monster line. Their names were Gwonk, Wogster, and Rark. All the monsters created are all brightly colored. However, some colors and sizes may vary depending on the model you decided to purchase.
Now, not to worry, all of the figures came with the signature Breakaway Monster Cups.
In fact, they did. So let's take a look at them now. First up, let's talk about Gwonk. Gwonk has orange fur with purple eyebrows, blue hair, and a red face. He has a tail with a blue furry tip, and his nose is a purple bumpy triangle. He also has a long red tongue and two fangs that descend from his upper lip. His feet are blue with red claws. Next up, let's talk about Wogster. He is a monster that has pink fur with green eyebrows, blue hair, a tail with an orange tip, and a purple face. He also has blue feet with blue claws. Wogster resembles a dog. With a dark red tongue that sticks out over his bottom lip, he shows off his two fangs that are located on his lower jaw. Last but not least, we have Rark, a monster with purple fur, orange eyebrows, and yellow hair. He has a purplish pink nose with bumps, and his feet are green with hot pink claws. His tail has a yellow tip, and he has a purple tongue hanging over his bottom lip, and 3 fangs on each side of his upper lip.
As Mr. Bats should have previously mentioned, Gwonk, Wogster, and Rark were released in the form of puppets and not plush toys.
The popularity of the series with its memorable characters also spawned a lot of merchandise, including coloring books, stationery, clothing, puzzles, inflatable beach balls, and a load of various other items. To date, My Pet Monster has been released in various shapes and sizes, everything from ones that can hold on to your finger to ones 25 inches tall. Then in the fall of 2013, Saban Brands brought back My Pet Monster with a new mobile app, which you can no longer get. In the My Pet Monsters game, you could have created your own monster and played with it. You could have played with other monsters during mini-games or quests.
You could even play with a friend's monster and take pictures with them.
The game was designed to give younger kids some form of fun from our childhoods and to teach another generation that monsters are awesome. Then in 2014, Warner Brothers released a pillow that resembles My Pet Monster. It was a rectangle pillow with monster design painted on it. Also, it had soft horns and thin floppy arms and legs attached to it. It is extremely hard to find and would cost you hundreds of dollars if you had enough interest to even try to find it.
As of 2018, Hasbro acquired the My Pet Monster license from Saban Brands.
Hopefully, if they revive this toy, they do it in a way that all kids will be happy with. Kids of all ages. Like us.
Also, as of 2018, you can find My Pet Monster and Friends on eBay, Etsy, and Amazon.com, just to name a few.
Some of them can be ridiculously expensive and don't come with the trademark handcuffs.
That's very true, Mr. Bats. But just so you know, if you do want to replace the handcuffs, they are extremely expensive and I doubt you could even find them.
So if you have even a partial My Pet Monster, I would recommend holding on to it. You'll be happy to hear that my monster broke his cuffs and retired from monstering. He now runs Macabre'Gorium's HR department. Well, that's about all the time we had for this lesson. We hope you enjoyed this in-depth look into the monster craze that taught us that not all monsters were bad. Hopefully in the future, My Pet Monster will find a way to creep back into our lives and help us scare away the monsters under our beds. As always, thank you for joining us. I've been your guide, Mr. Bats, and this has been Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, lesson number 107, My Pet Monster. Your creepy friend till the very end. Join us next time for lesson number 108. You never know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves and keep it creepy. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Macabre'Gorium Labs Classic School of Boredom. That's right, we're back with episode 108, Boglins. Less than a Muppet, more than a puppet. So as we have said many times, and trust me when I say, well, many more, the 1980s was full of some of the grossest, most obscure toys. However, today we're going to talk about a specific toy that has been brought back into the spotlight by none other than the iconic Rick and Morty.
Whoa, garage foul. Who said you could go through my stuff? Wait, where's my Boglin? There you are. Don't worry, Pop-Pop's back. I'll keep you safe.
As previously stated, the 1980s were chock full of gross-out humor, strange and macabre toys, and pet creatures all around for you to call your very own. One of these toy pets that likely adorned your parents' collectible shelf was none other than Boglins.
Over here, I'm a Boglin. Me and my buddies need a place to hide out. Come a little closer. Oh, did I scare you? Oh, I do that so well. If you take us home, we'll kiss your Aunt Martha.
Now, there is not a lot of information to gather on the lore of these interesting little creatures, but rest assured we will bring you as much information as we possibly can. Unlike most of the other toys in this era, this particular one did not have a television show, a movie, or an animated series.
In fact, the only real insight into the lore of Boglins can only be found on the back of the original package in the form of an info card known as the Boglins Field Notes.
While we will not actually be taking a look at the field notes in this particular lesson, there is an accompanying extra credit coming out soon based solely on the Boglins Field Notes. Brought to the public in 1987, Boglins were created by Tim Clark, Maureen Trotto, and Larry Mass, whom were all alumni of the Jim Henson Company. The decision to create these adorably grotesque little guys was in part due to a sensation of creepy creatures of that era. More specifically, they were intended as an addition to the already ongoing toy line, the Sectars.
The Battle of the Sectors begins. Heroic Dargon, leader of the forces of good, is ambushed by evil Sectors.
The Boglins, by their proper Latin name, Boglinus Humongus, were, however, given their own brand and toy line. In 1987, Mattel would release the Boglins as 3 original designs named Dwork, Vlob, and Drool. All 3 of the original puppets were made of an artificial rubber material called Kraton, which is a soft, flexible substance.
Each of the original models also had the ability to move the eyes and eyebrows separately, and featured glow-in-the-dark eyes.
Speaking of models, let's take a look at each of them now before we jump into their lore and history. First up is Dwork. Dwork is a greenish, yellow goblin slug with 2 antennae on top of his head. He was covered in warts and has 2 arms with 4 stubby fingers on each hand. He has a tail like that of an alien, a human-esque nose, pit bull-like ears, greenish eyes, and his mouth featured 2 teeth on his upper jaw, with one of them being either broken or impacted. Next up on our Boglin checklist is Vlob. Vlob is a blue, round-shaped creature with a short tail that resembles that of a space slug, like you might see in a video game. He sees the world with his blue-green eyes, and he has rounded ears similar to a panda or a baby tiger. He also shares the same 2 hands with the same 4 stubby fingers and human-esque nose as the other 2. He has 2 teeth with one on the upper side and the other on the opposite side bottom of his mouth. Vlob didn't have antennae, but instead looked like he had 2 divots on top of his wrinkled head. Hey, editor, do a wipe transition, 'cause next up is Drool. The Boglin Drool looks like what would happen if you mix the DNA of a human, a pug dog, and a ball of raw pizza dough together. He has the same nose, arms, and hands as his friends, but has a more squishy appearance. He has short, pointy ears and a short, skinny tail very similar to the others. Drool had gray-brown eyes and 2 teeth in his mouth, with one on top and one on bottom of his mouth.
The idea for Boglins was inspired by the giant Olmec heads of ancient Mexico.
That is interesting. However, there are a lot of Boglins that were added to the Boglin line. So, without further ado, let's just take a look at each one in a list-like process. There were smaller Boglins, known as the subspecies Boglinus minimus. Let's take a look at them now. Boglinus minimus. The Boglinus minimus set consisted of Squidge, Schlump, Schlurp, Sponk, Squawk, and Squeal. However, in the UK, these names were changed to Squit, Boink, Splat, Blap, Clank, and Doink, respectively. Then there were the talking Boglins, Glint and Quirk. Then there was the soggy Boglins, Snish the Fish, Slog the Frog, and Slobster the Lobster. There were 2 Halloween Boglins, Blobkin, and Bog-O-Bones. 3 glow-in-the-dark Boglins, Clang, Doink, and Squit were all made in glow-in-the-dark versions. Action Boglins, Rasp, Gunge, Lick, Eyeball, and Spit. The Basham Boglins, Splat, and Squish. And finally, Baby Boglins, because everything in the 80s had a baby version. Blap, Boink, Squit, Clang, Doink, Splat, Cratch, Flop, Lurp, Mork, Snot, and Suck.
Baby Boglins were much smaller in size and were more like finger puppets as opposed to the full-sized hand puppets. Also, these tiny Boglins came inside of small plastic eggs.
Now, normally we would take a look into this interesting, albeit limited lore of these adorable little creatures. However, the only real or official lore came from the backing card of the cage or package that they originally came in. At least at the time of filming this School of Boredom, Boglins are not officially sold in retail stores. But there is a website you can go to, link in the description, where you can find some of these recreations made by one of the original designers, none other than Tim Clark. And you can find these awesome and creepy creations available at Tim's website, totems.com. We checked out this website while doing research for this video, and I must say, some of these are really cool. If I do decide to pick up a couple, we will definitely do a review over on my personal channel, Bats from the Grave. Tim has a large variety of new and old Boglin designs for sale, including glow-in-the-dark, blacklight responsive, and alternate versions of each and every one. Looking over this awesome website, if you navigate over to the bio panel, you can read a short bit of information about this rad toy creator. And it reads, Tim Clark, master toy designer known as the King of Gross. For over 30 years, Tim has been inventing, designing, and sculpting some of the most unusual toys to ever be marketed in the US and abroad. Now some background on this amazing creative man. Tim has also created toys for Melissa and Doug Toys, EK Success, Hasbro, Mattel, Coleco, Kenner, and Ideal LaSears, just to mention a few. Anyway, that about wraps up all the time we had for this lesson. If you had a good time or maybe learned something new, please feel free to give us a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our School of Boredoms, extra credits, Theorygoriums, and other content as soon as we get it out for you. At any rate, I've been your host, Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom Classic, Boglins. Less than a Muppet, more than a puppet. Lesson number 108. As usual, think for yourselves and keep it creepy.
Over here, I'm a boglin. Me and my buddies need a place to hide out. Come a little closer. Oh, did I scare you? Oh, I do that so well. If you take us home, we'll kiss your Aunt Martha. We'll eat your peas. And we hope you know lots of girls. Hey, the name's Boglins, each sold separately, and we're looking for good homes. Maybe yours?
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we take a look at lesson number 109, The Addams Family, America's most macabre family. We had to go way, way back to find the origin of this creepy franchise. The Addams Family is a fictional family created by cartoonist Charles Addams in 1938. Charles Addams was born in Westfield, New Jersey on January 7th, 1912. In his youth, Charles was known as being a bit of a neighborhood rascal by all his friends. Also, in his youth, Charles broke into some homes, which, by the way, is not okay. And one theory even suggests that this could be where the inspiration for the Addams Family mansion originally came from. Taking inspiration from his father, Charles would go on to create cartoons for his high school student literary magazine, Weather Vane. In 1931 and 1932, Charles also studied at the Grand School of Art in New York. 1933 found Charles working for True Detective magazine, where he had the job of removing the blood and viscera from crime scene photos before the magazine published them.
Charles would often complain that a lot of the corpses were more interesting the way they were.
It was this mindset that would help him create a comic strip in 1937. That comic strip would appear in the New Yorker until his death on September 29th of 1988 at the age of 76. This masterpiece was, of course, The Addams Family. The Addams Family is a parody of the ideal 20th century family. They like the macabre and either don't know or don't care that others find them scary or bizarre. The fun part of the Addams Family is that they are always confused by the people in the town that are horrified by the things they do. For example, visitors have been institutionalized, changed jobs, or have even moved out of the country. This was mainly due to the prejudice of the, quote, normal people with closed minds. This family has since been shown in many mediums, including live-action movies, a cartoon series, and books.
Now, before we get started, it is important to note two other family members. In 1954, we were introduced to Thing, and 1964 brought us Cousin It.
Now we're going to try to cover as much information as possible without making this a 5-hour lesson. And so we begin on September 18th, 1964, which is when the first TV sitcom starring the Addams Family was brought to us by none other than ABC. The sitcom ran successfully until April 8th of 1966 and brought us our first real look at the Addams Family. The series was created by David Levy and Donald Saltzman, and they filmed it in black and white.
The Addams Family sitcom had a total of 64 episodes and 2 seasons.
The iconic theme song was written by Vic Mizzy, a notable Hollywood film and TV composer. This song featured the harpsichord and finger snaps that we all know and love today. This TV family consisted of Gomez, portrayed by John Astin. Carolyn Jones would play Morticia, Ken Weatherwax as Pugsley, Lisa Loring as Wednesday, Ted Cassidy as Lurch, Edith Blossom as Grandmama, and John Coogan as Uncle Fester.
Fun fact about Cousin It, Felix Celia played him, however his voice was done by Anthony Megro during 1965 and 1966.
The Addams Family are a very family-orientated bunch and have a lot of extended family. They are the last of this particular line of Addams. With that being said, let's take a look at each one of the Addams Family members. First up, we have the patriarch, Gomez Addams, who is of course played by John Astin. Gomez is usually dressed in a double-breasted pinstripe suit with a black tie and smoking a cigar. He is a retired lawyer of Castilian descent who is passionately in love with his wife. He often demonstrates this by having many pet names for her, as well as being very attentive to her needs.
A little fun fact, Gomez goes crazy when Morticia speaks French to him.
Gomez is extremely rich from owning many companies and stocks. He also has many hobbies, but his favorite is detonating model trains.
I think so, huh? Beautiful. Beautiful.
John Astin smoked cigars already, so he added that trait to the character. He also quit after that series ended.
Moving right along, we have Morticia Addams, played by the talented and beautiful Carolyn Jones. She has long black hair and wears a floor-length, tight black dress that ends in octopus-like tentacle fringe.
Morticia is often the calm voice of reason when things get crazy in the house.
Morticia is a very refined lady and has an aristocratic air. Like her husband, she also has many hobbies such as knitting, raising carnivorous plants, and playing the shamsian, just to name a few.
Now it is said that Charles Addams based Morticia Addams' thin and slinky look from his first wife, Barbara Day.
Next up, we have Pugsley Addams, played by Ken Weatherwax. He is the older brother of Wednesday Addams and the oldest of Addams' offspring. Pugsley is kind-hearted and does take part in some, quote, normal activities such as Boy Scouts. Pugsley's other hobbies include making machines, playing with blasting caps, playing with Wednesday and Aristotle, his pet octopus. On to the last of Gomez and Morticia's children, we have Wednesday, played by Lisa Loring. She is considered weird and likes to collect weird pets. Among others, she has a spider named Homer and a lizard named Lucifer. Much like other normal girls, Wednesday has a doll named Marie Antoinette. In true Addams style, her doll, of course, has no head. One of the extended family members is Uncle Fester, played by Jackie Coogan, who is Morticia's extroverted uncle. He is bald and dressed in a large fur-collared coat. Like Pugsley, Uncle Fester likes blasting caps and dynamite. Uncle Fester and Pugsley have this in common and often team up for fun. Our next character is Grandmama Adams, played by Blossom Rock, and she's Gomez's mother.
This was changed in the 1990 Addams Family films, but we are talking about the original.
She's a witch and loves to experiment with potions and spells. She also occasionally likes to indulge in fortune-telling and knife-throwing. You don't want to mess with her family. Now let's move on to the other two characters that are considered family by Gomez and Morticia, none other than Thing and Lurch. Everyone loves Thing. He's a hand that can teleport around the Addams house through containers that are conveniently located throughout the house. He has been Gomez's companion since he was a child. Thing is like an assistant. He's ready to help out with the family with minor daily necessities, answering the phone, getting the mail, pouring tea, and playing chess. Thing was played by Ted Cassidy, but would also be played by Jack Vogelin, the director, when Lurch and Thing would appear in scenes together. The last person in the Addams Family household is the awesome Lurch, who is played by none other than Ted Cassidy. Although he is considered by most as the Addams Family's butler, he's actually extremely loyal, has a big heart, and is part of the family. They summon him by pulling on a hangman's noose, which rings a bell, to which he immediately answers by saying,
"You rang."
Lurch is very large and speaks with mostly grunts or groans. Lurch's favorite pastime is playing the Addams Family harpsichord. The Addams Family's harpsichord is a rare 1503 Krupnik harpsichord that was in Cousin Crimp's family for over 400 years.
In case you don't know, Cousin Crimp is a two-headed family member of the Addams extended family.
In August of 1964, the creator, David Levy, was quoted as saying, "We have made the family full-bodied people and not monsters. They are not grotesque and hideous manifestations." David Levy was also thankfully concerned with keeping true to the original cartoons.
In 1973, there was an Addams Family cartoon that was not based on the original cartoons.
Then in 1977, the ABC network started a television film which does include cameos from the 1964 series. The 90s brought back the Addams Family with a pairing of movies, The Addams Family in 1991 and The Addams Family Values in 1993. The movies also spawned another animated series that would run from 1992 to 1993. And this one was set in the same universe as the original, with John Astin lending his voice to the character of Gomez. Some may not know this, but there was a 1998 direct-to-video movie named The Addams Family Reunion, and a spin-off live-action TV series called The New Addams Family, which ran from 1998 to the year 2000.
In The New Addams Family, John Astin was Grandpapa Addams.
And by October of 2011, Cartoon Network was playing the Addams Family for the Halloween season on their sister channel, Boomerang.
The Addams Family series was taken off Boomerang after Halloween 2013.
Then Illumination Entertainment, in partnership with Universal Pictures, bought the rights to the Addams Family in 2010. On October 31st of 2013, Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer announced that they would bring the Addams Family back to popular culture with an animated movie. By October 2017, Conrad Vernon was to produce this movie. However, the film wouldn't be released until October 11th, 2019.
Altogether, there are also 7 video games released from 1989 to 2019, and numerous books.
Now, in the year of 2021, the Addams Family is a pop culture icon and has had major influence on American comics, TV, and movies. In fact, by some, it is considered the inspiration for the Gothic subculture. Today, there have been many homages done to the Addams Family, and we here at Macabre'Gorium Labs love most of them. As a matter of fact, if you're loving this one, feel free to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our weird, creepy, strange, eccentric, or odd content as soon as we get it out to you.
As an interesting final tidbit, John Astin celebrated his 90th birthday on March 30th, 2020. And he'll be 91 soon, as this is also March.
And with that, we've come to the end of this lesson. I've been your host, Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom, lesson number 109, The Addams Family, the world's most macabre family. Join us next time. You never know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves and keep it creepy. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore Lesson 110, Alf, the lesson has landed. Back in the 1980s, most television shows were sitcoms. They were easy to identify, usually contained within a 30-minute time slot in which they could solve that episode's problem, with a new problem being introduced in the next episode. Today we'll be taking a look at an amazing sitcom that ran from September 22nd, 1986 until March 24th, 1990. It featured a fun-loving, furry alien that crashed into our homes and into our hearts. I, of course, am talking about the one and only Gordon Shumway, or better known as Alf. There's a movie, 2 cartoons, and a TV sitcom version of Alf. This lesson is all about the sitcom television show. Alf was created by Paul Fusco and Tom Patchett. It had 4 seasons consisting of 102 episodes and 3 one-hour episodes that were broken into 30-minute 2-part episodes. Alf was produced by Alien Productions and distributed by Lorimar Telepictures and then Warner Brothers. Gordon Shumway, or Alf as he came to be known, was born on October 28, 1758 to Bob and Flo Shumway. He also has a younger brother, Curtis Shumway, and a younger sister, Augie Shumway. Unlike other Alien shows, Alf didn't have any special powers and isn't really that advanced. Alf itself is about an alien from the planet Melmac and an Earth family called the Tanners who live in the San Fernando Valley area of California. The alien, Gordon, had been following an amateur radio signal that was coming from Earth and ends up crashing into the garage of the Tanner family, the source of the signal. And it's at this point in the video where we get to the meat and potatoes, because the Tanner family consists of the father, Willie, played by Max Wright, the mother, Kate, played by Ann Shadeen, the daughter, Lynn, played by Andrea Elson, the son, played by Benji Gregory, and their Maine Coon cat, Lucky, who was played mostly by a cat named Sparks. Willie Tanner works as a social worker, so he's used to helping people out and wants to help out Gordon. So after much discussion, the Tanners decide to let Gordon stay with them to avoid the alien task force and their neighbors, the Achmonics, while he fixes his ship.
Now, the Alien Task Force is the department of the military that deals with aliens.
Willie nicknamed Gordon Alf, meaning alien life form. Why he couldn't be called Gordon, we have no idea, but that's part of this show's charm. In the very first episode, we find out that the planet Melmac was actually destroyed by nuclear war, which leaves Alf homeless. Alf only survived as he was on the Melmac orbit guard out on patrol when Melmac was destroyed. When Alf gets to Earth, he finds out that Earth is also developing nuclear weapons. Alf is terrified that the Earth might suffer the same fate as Melmac, so he immediately tries to tell the President of the United States to stop the nuclear program. This, of course, does not go well, as Alf is misunderstood with what he says since he just landed and doesn't know Earth's customs. This misunderstanding causes the President and National Security to think the message is a huge threat, and the FBI tracks down and arrests Willie. Apparently, Alf had used Willie's radio, which made the FBI think Willie sent the message. As the series progresses, Alf tries to adapt to living on Earth with the Tanners, although it is suggested that he wants to eat Lucky, at least at first. One of the problems that Alf faces is that on Melmac, cats are a common protein, kinda like how humans use chickens or cows, and there is a run-on joke about this throughout the series. With Willie constantly telling Alf he can't eat the cat, it does make for some funny hijinks all around. Never fear though, because after some time, Alf becomes an actual member of the Tanners family and grows to love each and every one of them, including Lucky. As you can imagine, living with the Tanners creates all sorts of problems for the family. They have to constantly hide Alf from the neighbors, friends, and outside family while also worrying about what would happen to them if the family got caught. This series shows how Alf deals with survivor's guilt, boredom, and loneliness, because Alf believes himself to be the last Melmacian.
Although in Season 1, Episode 7, Help Me Rhonda, we do find that Skip, Alf's friend, also survived.
In the Help Me Rhonda episode, Willie sees that Alf is depressed and homesick for Melmac, so he decides to try and get in touch with any of Alf's people. Willie does manage to get in contact with Alf's best friends, Skip and Rhonda, who somehow survived as well. By the end of the episode, Skip and Rhonda try to persuade Alf to come with them to start a new Melmacian colony. However, he does not want to leave the Tanners. Alf was definitely a comedy, but did manage to add some actual space exploration concepts, such as on the solar system Alf helps Brian with, and using a radio signal as a beacon.
Alf lets Brian and his class know about 2 planets beyond Pluto, called Dave and Alvin. This ultimately causes Brian to get in trouble at school.
As the show continued, the Tanners come to love Alf, and he loves them too, as he becomes a permanent part of their family, even with the problems that come with Alf living with them, such as the Tanners being constantly fearful of someone finding out that they live with an alien. They're willing to help and protect him. After all, he is family. With Alf being stuck on Earth, he can only hide in the attic for so long before he begins to make friends outside the family. So, throughout the series, Alf becomes friends with Willie's brother Neil, Kate's mother Dorothy, Dorothy's boyfriend Whizzer, the Achmonic's nephew Jake, a psychologist named Larry, and a blind woman named Jody. Another change to the show was that the Tanners had a new child, Eric, who would be played by twins Charles and J.R. Nickerson.
This child was only added as the actress that played Kate was pregnant in real life.
With the addition of Eric to the family, Alf moves from the laundry room up into the attic, which they make into an apartment just for him. Alf is super excited about Eric and wants to be allowed to babysit him when the Tanners are at work, because Kate needs to go back to her real estate career after the birth. Alf decides he needs to hone his babysitting skills, and he does so by watching Charles in Charge. To his credit, Alf takes care of Eric perfectly, changing diapers, feeding, and burping him, but then he misplaces him. Of course, it all ends up being a misunderstanding, and Eric was with Lynn all along. As with all good shows, a decision had to be made after 4 seasons. End the show or keep it going? Unfortunately, eventually it was determined that the show would be canceled due to several reasons. One big reason was the storylines couldn't keep being rehashed over and over. Even with the addition of people Alf befriends throughout the series, there was still a limited number of situations. The other issue was that although fans loved all of Alf's antics, the human actors were less than happy working on the show at all by the time it ended. One issue for the actors was that Alf was not played by an actual human, but was in fact a large puppet. Due to the size of the puppet and the operator needed to work it, filming was very complicated. One actor has shared that a 30-minute episode could take as long as 25 hours to shoot, with the set being hot and miserable. Believe me when I say we here at the labs totally understand that.
It was also a technical nightmare, slow, hot, and tedious.
Said Anne Sheeden, the actress that played Kate Tanner. Unfortunately, by the time it was canceled in 1990, most of the actors were really glad to see its end. The cancellation is also why the series finale ended on a cliffhanger.
Shameless plug!
Hey everybody, if you're enjoying the video, please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our weird, creepy, odd, strange, or eccentric content as soon as we get it out to you. Now without further ado, back to your video.
Spoiler
The last episode of this sitcom shows Alf being taken to an undisclosed location by government agents. Fans were extremely let down and mad that there was no good ending. However, since fans were so upset about the ending, they decided to make a TV movie called Project Alf that came out in 1996, which would wind up resolving part of the cliffhanger. I'm not going to go into Project Alf in this School of Boredom, but I will let you know that Alf does get away. Check it out for yourselves, especially if you're a fan of Alf, although we will probably have an upcoming School of Boredom Quickie about it. And with that, we've come to the end of this School of Boredom lesson. My name is Bats, and I've been your guide today for Lesson 110, Alf, the lesson has landed. Be sure to check back next time, even if we don't know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and keep it creepy. Of all the memorable contributions from director Kevin Smith, none quite stand out like the project that started it all. Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Jason Mewes, and Kevin Smith would all bring various roles to life, from smart-mouthed stoner slackers to irritable rude service workers. This movie was the one that would spawn an entire universe. And with that, hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, a showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Bats, and I'll be your guide today as we explore Lesson 111, Clerks. I'm not even supposed to be here today. For this lesson, we need to once again go back in time, back to the 1990s, 1994 to be specific. In 1994, we were introduced to a funny, low-budget movie from the now iconic director, Kevin Smith, and this movie would be called Clerks. Clerks was the breakout movie from director, producer, and actor, Kevin Smith. To understand Clerks, you need to know a little about Kevin Smith himself. Kevin was born on August 2nd, 1970 in Red Bank, New Jersey to Donald and Grace Smith. At the time, Donald Smith was a postal worker that was growing to hate his job, and each day became a struggle just for him to go to work. With Kevin seeing this growing up, he vowed not to have a job like that. He wanted to enjoy what he did for a living. In school, Kevin was a reasonably good student and regularly taped the school's basketball games. He also produced comedy sketches like you would see on Saturday Night Live. After high school, he decided to follow his dream and began to attend the new school in New York City, but didn't graduate. On his 21st birthday, Kevin got the kick in the butt that he needed to make his own movies by watching the movie Slacker. Our audience should take note that this movie is not to be confused with the 2002 movie Slackers. Slacker heavily impacted Kevin as the film had been shot in the hometown of Richard Linklater, the director. Realizing you don't need a huge Hollywood set, big-name actors, or a large budget, Kevin was inspired to create his universe in his hometown. This change was just what was needed to jumpstart the project. And so, Kevin moved back to New Jersey and began working at a convenience store to save money up to make his film. To make Clerks, Kevin maxed out over 12 credit cards and sold his comic book collection to raise the $27,575 that was needed.
Kevin Smith also had the brilliant idea to use a lot of his friends and family as the cast, so that way he didn't have to pay high-priced actors.
But he was a man on a mission, so it was worth the sacrifice to see his vision come to life. In 1994, Kevin Smith founded his production company, View Askew Productions, with longtime friend Scott Mosier in order to produce Clerks. Now that you know some of the backstory, let's get into the actual movie. Clerks is about two friends working at a convenience store and a video rental store.
A fun fact, the convenience store and video rental store seen in the movie are where Kevin Smith had actually worked in real life.
The movie opens with Dante Hicks being asked to work on his day off, and Dante, being who he is, agrees to open the store for the morning shift.
What? No, I don't work today.
As soon as he arrives at the quick stop, he begins to get the feeling it's gonna be another one of those days. Initially, Dante tries to open the security shutters, only to find gum jammed in the lock. He solves this problem by putting a sheet over the shutters that reads, "I assure you, we're open." After a while, Dante's best friend and resident slacker, Randall Graves, comes in.
Randall works at the VHS movie rental store next door.
Randall doesn't seem to care about his job, as he doesn't even do the bare minimum for his customers. He also spends most of the day hanging out in the quick stop with Dante, leaving his customers waiting for hours to return their movies. When he does interact with his customers, he's usually rude and condescending. Back over at the quick stop, Dante and Randall discuss various subjects, from movies and relationships to difficult customers.
Now this is the part where I'm sure many people in the service industry are also able to relate to these issues.
Eventually, Dante finds out that his boss, who was supposed to do the evening shift, has left for a trip to Vermont, and Dante is then required to stay and keep the quick stop open until closing. Since originally Dante had the day off, hence the title of this video, he had plans to play hockey with his friends in the afternoon. You might think he would have to cancel, however, Dante just decides to get creative. Not to be thwarted, he invites his friends to play hockey on the roof of the quick stop, and this goes well until the puck is launched off the roof and into a drain. They only had the one puck, so the game ends quickly, further irritating Dante. In the midst of everything else going on in the store, Dante is trying to figure out if he should stay with his current girlfriend or get back with his ex.
As a side note, his current girlfriend Veronica loves him and is always doing things for him. His ex Caitlin Bree, on the other hand, always cheated on him.
You know, she only cheated on me once.
Oh yeah? Remember the time she got you to help paint her house?
Nobody's perfect.
There is a funny situation that arises when Caitlin shows up to meet Dante at the quick stop that leads to her becoming catatonic. But you gotta go check that one out on your own.
We're good today, Sal Bob. We're gonna make some money. And you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna have a party. We're gonna get some and I'm gonna just anything that moves.
Towards the end of the day, we are introduced to everybody's favorite iconic supporting characters, Jay and Silent Bob, local drug dealers who come in to invite Dante to a party with them. Dante declines the offer, however. But before they leave, Silent Bob points out that Veronica actually cares about Dante, and maybe Dante should get over himself and be with her.
You know, there's a million fine-looking women in the world, dude, but they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you.
Come on, man.
This causes Dante to realize he's actually in love with Veronica and goes to find her. Unfortunately for Dante, Randall is busy talking to Veronica and telling her about Caitlin and how she should leave Dante. She agrees and breaks up with him. As you've probably guessed, this winds up with Randall and Dante getting into a fight inside the quick stop, causing a bunch of damage. After the fight, Dante again says he's not even supposed to be there today. And Randall heard enough and tells Dante that it's his own fault and he could have left at any point in the day. The movie wraps up with the two making up and closing up the stores for the day. Randall grabs the "I sure you were open" sign and tosses it at Dante and says, "You're closed."
You're closed.
Shameless plug!
Hey everybody, if you're enjoying the video, please click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can see all of our weird, creepy, odd, strange, or eccentric content as soon as we get it out to you. Now without further ado, back to your video. This movie does start out kind of slow, but it invites you to spend a crazy but apparently normal day in the life of two convenience store employees. If you haven't had a chance to check out this movie, I highly recommend it. It will definitely give you some perspective into what clerks have to deal with on a daily basis. And maybe you'll treat them nicer. And maybe not. Superfans need not worry, as we will be covering almost all of Kevin Smith's View Askew properties in future School of Boredom lessons. However, we decided to start right here where it all began.
And one last note, Clerks only cost $27,575 to make. However, it grossed $3.2 million. I bet your studios are kicking themselves in the butt now.
And with that, we've come to the end of the video. I've been your host, Bats, and I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at Kevin Smith's first master classic, Clerks, through our School of Boredom lesson, number 111. And with that, let's get into the video. From September 9th, 1989 until December 6th, 1991, this series would deliver 109 episodes of wacky Netherworld awesomeness. Along with this tunified version of the Ghost with the Most, we would be introduced to several new characters, but at the same time, a lot of the original cast and continuity would be altered or even lost altogether. Which brings us to part 1, plot changes. Okay, so as we just mentioned, the plot for the cartoon and the plot for the movie are very different. The main protagonists, the Maitlands, Barbara and Adam, are not present in the cartoon, as well as their deaths and most of the spooky parts from the film. None of the story from the movies has any screen time here. Instead, what we get is a reworking that actually worked out, because back then people liked to create new original things, opposed to just rebooting everything and piggybacking on someone else's work. Taking note that the original studio and Tim Burton himself were involved with the creation of this show, but I digress.
Now we know some of you are going to comment about our hatred of reboots, but this was not a reboot, this was an official accompanying adaptation. Totally different.
I'm glad you brought that up, Goats, because the house the Deets live in is explained via 1990's Panini sticker book as having belonged to Beetlejuice when he was alive, while the bridge where the Maitlands met their unfortunate demise was featured with the latter of aforementioned characters nowhere to be seen. There would be a vast amount of changes. However, these for some reason are the most notable. Other changes the cartoon would see is that Beetlejuice and Lydia are now best friends, as the show did away with Beetlejuice trying to force her to marry him, and the ghost's perverted evil ways would come to an end. They added the inclusion of Lydia's school life, with Beetlejuice himself going on adventures in the living world with a more touching storyline that has lessons and morals. A wide range of new characters, and Lydia would now go on adventures in the Netherworld with the Ghost with the Most. While progressing through the plots of the episodes, the duo would encounter a wide range of tropes from villains and people that Beetlejuice has angered to all too real puns and wordplay that have surreal results. As an example, in one episode, Beetlejuice tells Lydia that he can't get her out of his head, so, of course, Lydia is magically sucked into the brain of the titular character, where she must figure out a way to solve the problem and remove herself from the ghost's mind.
Fans of the series will be all too familiar with this plot device. They used it a lot.
Now let's get into our next section, the characters. This show would still have characters from the film, with Lydia Deets, voiced by the legendary Alison Court, and Charles Deets, voiced by Roger Dunn. Delia Deets would be voiced by Elizabeth Hanna, and some of the character additions included Claire Brewster and Bertha, Lydia's rival and best friend respectively, whom were voiced by the absolutely rad Tara Strong, although she was credited as Tara Chardanoff. Then there were the denizens of the Netherworld, which would introduce a whole bunch of new characters. However, seeing as most of them were only included for one episode, we will only be discussing the recurring characters. First up, we have Jacques Laline, a skeleton obsessed with fitness and health who was voiced by Charles Kerr. Next up, we have Ginger, a very sweet tap-dancing spider voiced by Tabitha St. Germain. Then there was the monster across the street, a large hairy monster man that lives across the street from Beetlejuice, and he was voiced by Len Carlson.
And of course we can't forget Poopsie, the monster across the street's pet, voiced by Susan Romaine.
There were a ton of other characters, many of which were voiced by the same person. So here's a quick breakdown of the rest. Lynn Carlson would also voice May or May Not and Judgmental. Along with Poopsie, Susan Romaine would voice Percy, Bee Juice, the Monstrous Across the Street, Poopette, and Miss Sharpen. And Macabre'Gorium Labs' favorite, Dan Hennessy, would voice several characters like Jesse Germs, Captain Kidder, and Billy the Crud. This show had a bunch of merchandise, with trading cards, Panini sticker books, toys, games, video games, and much more. Early on, the show would be released on a 6-volume VHS set, but later in 2013, the Shout Factory released the show on DVD.
Now we, of course, do have a complete set of the trading cards and the complete DVD set. And at some point, you'll be able to find a showcase either here or on our partner channel, Bats from the Grave, along with other collectible and toy reviews and showcases.
This was a really fun show that only seemed to get more in-depth as it went on. And eventually, they got a sentient Netherworld car named Doomy, and he was awesome. And unfortunately, we've reached the end of this video. My name is Bats, and I've been your guide for our School of Boredom lesson number 112.5. Beetlejuice, the animated series, One Punny adaptation. Be sure to check back next time. You never know what we have in store. And as usual, think for yourselves, be excellent to each other, and keep it creepy. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Yo-ho, yo-ho, it's a breakfast life for me. With the center of today's topic having lost the battle with the nefarious Soggies and sailing out to sea for the last time, we figured it was about time to open the big book of breakfast history and dive deep into a bowl of cereal some of us grew up with. So for our School of Boredom season finale, we hope you'll join us as we examine something that we can assure you most likely did cut the roof of your mouth. And with that, welcome back everybody to Macabre'Gorium Labs presents School of Boredom, showcase of things likely forgotten. My name is Bats, and I hope you'll join me today for our School of Boredom Season 1 finale, Captain Crunch, Lesson 113, Crunch Buries at Sea. Back in 1963, a woman named Pamela Lowe, who worked for the Arthur D. Little International Management Consulting Firm, would develop the original classic Captain Crunch flavor by turning to a recipe that she learned from her grandmother, Luella Lowe. Consisting of brown sugar and butter poured over rice, this recipe would be a simple one that would go on to spawn a breakfast icon.
When Pamela Lowe created the flavor coding for the cereal, she described it as giving the cereal a quality, quote, want more-ishness.
To help development of this new cereal, a man named Robert Roundtree Reinhardt Sr. would develop a technique for the manufacturing process that would use oil for a delivery system of the flavor. However, this process would make baking the cereal a pretty difficult task, meaning the cereal would have problems baking correctly. It is important to note that Captain Crunch cereal was one of the first to use this method. Surprisingly, the Quaker Company already had the marketing plan for Captain Crunch before the cereal was even developed. We aren't sure how often this particular practice took place, but we can only imagine it probably happened a lot. The character they had in mind would be created by none other than the one and only Jay Ward, creator of the iconic Rocky and Bullwinkle show. And the character he would create would become Captain Horatio Magellan Crunch, born on Crunch Island and spending his life sailing through a sea of milk on his ship, the SS Guppy. In his time, Captain Crunch would have his fair share of encounters, whether he was dealing with the hijinks of his nemesis, Captain Jean Lafoot, or later the Soggies. Jean Lafoot would go on to promote his own cereal, Cinnamon Crunch, but that's a story for a later School of Boredom Quickie. However, unlike the info we have on that, Captain Crunch did come with his fair share of merchandise as well. We'll cover that in just a minute. First, let's talk about the different variations that the Captain has had over the years. During the 1980s, the Captain would get a new enemy to test his mettle as a Captain, and these things would be the Soggies. The Soggies were sentient alien white blobs, and their mission? Sogify everything. They would also show up in a ton of the animated commercials. The original flavored cereal would debut in 1963. As we mentioned a moment ago, it had oat corn cereal pieces and a sugary sweet flavor similar to brown sugar and butter. But according to the Captain Crunch Wiki, there were over 30 different flavors, styles, and variations. We're not sure we're going to be able to find proof of each of the variations, but here's a quick rundown of each one. Captain Crunch's Crunch Berries came onto the scene in 1967, and this would add originality. They would put red spherical cereal pieces called Crunch Berries into the originally yellow cereal, and these Crunch Berries would have a rather generic but somehow memorable flavor of berries. Then later on down the line in the 1990s, they would add blue and purple Crunch Berries, while later still in 2002, they would add the final color of Crunch Berry, green. Despite being different colors, all of the Crunch Berries shared the exact same flavor. Although at one point they did attempt to make the Crunch Berries into the shape of a cluster of 3 round berries, connected to look like a bunch. In the end, there were 4 different Crunch Berries, all shaped like spheres. But what can you say? People like tradition.
Along with the Crunch Berries would come a new character in the Captain Crunch canon. We would be introduced to the Crunch Berry Beast, or as he is sometimes called, the Crunch Beast, or even CB, as the Captain was known to call him.
Right you are, discovered on the fictional island of Crunchberry Island by the Captain himself while looking for the fabled Crunchberry trees. The Crunchberry Beast was a yellow, cutesy, high-energy, hyperactive, monster dinosaur-looking character that had a tuft of frizzy red hair and spots all over his body with a large nose. However, we were unable to determine what color his spots actually were because of the many different images available. Could this mean there's more than one Crunchberry monster? His role in this universe was to consume Crunch Berries and join the Captain's crew aboard the SS Guppy, which would play into the various stories portrayed throughout the animated commercials. Next up, in 1971, the company would introduce Vanilli Crunch, and it was described as having a vanilla birthday cake flavor, and this one has an actual story behind it.
And just like a few of the other styles we will mention, this one also came with a new character to add to the roster.
On a roll, you are correct again, Goat. The story of this serial includes the introduction of a new character named Sea Dog. Apparently, Sea Dog was baking a birthday cake when he accidentally spilled said cake batter into the bowl of Captain Crunch. The Captain tried it and liked it so much that he decided to add the flavor officially to his brand for all to enjoy. As a result, Sea Dog would join his crew aboard the SS Guppy. It doesn't end there though, because after a commercial for Vanilli Crunch featured a whale carrying the boxes in her mouth, Wilma the winsome white whale would be seen alongside Sea Dog and would often be seen floating in the waters behind the Captain on the box. 1972 would bring 2 new flavors to the brand, but this is where things get a little weird. Who knew the cereal mascots, especially from way back then, could have such a deep continuity? Anyways, in 1972 we got both the Punch Crunch and Jean Lafoot's Cinnamon Crunch, and as you probably guessed, these would each come with a new mascot to add to the roster. Captain Crunch's Punch Crunch was a fruit punch flavored variation. Only this was styled as pink hoops and was promoted by the Captain's friend, a dandy sailor suit-wearing hippo named Harry S. Hippo. Unfortunately, we were unable to find any information on the origin of Harry S. Hippo. But of the few things we did find out, one is that he's very clumsy and accident prone, but he also appears to be an existing member of the Captain's crew as seen in the commercials. Around this same time, in 1972, the company would introduce Jean Lafoot's Cinnamon Crunch. This cereal was more like toasted flakes that were coated in cinnamon and sugar, and it would introduce Jean Lafoot as Captain's nemesis. As we said, we might do a short school boredom quickie on him later on, but what we will say here is that the hijinks between the Captain and Lafoot would go on for several years, as Lafoot was always causing trouble for the Captain. And now that we've got the most important ones out of the way, let's discuss the remaining flavors in a speed round. Ready? Let's go. 1982 saw the release of Choco Crunch. It was basically the original Crunch Berry recipe, however the berries were replaced by a similarly shaped chocolate-flavored balls and came with its own mascot, Choco the Blob. In 1987, the captain decided to get festive with Christmas Crunch. This one was true up into the very end and had consistent changes, but at its core the cereal was made of the regular Captain Crunch cereal. The Crunch Berries, you guessed it, were red and green. Now this particular promotion would feature the captain donning a Santa outfit and delivering his cereal to kids around the world. In 1993 we would get Deep Sea Crunch. Literally the only difference in this one is that the Crunch Berries were shaped like sea creatures, and it was discontinued but did see a short revival in 2009. 1995, fans of baseball would get Captain Crunch's Home Run Crunch. It features marshmallows shaped like baseball-themed items, while the cereal bits were shaped like baseballs and bats. In 1997, they would release Oops All Berries, which you may have guessed consists of nothing but Crunch Berries. It would last a year before getting pulled, but it would see returns in 2008, 2009, and 2010, off and on from time to time. In 2000, they would explode into markets with Captain Crunch's Mystery Volcano Crunch. It featured fruit-flavored Crunch Berries and a packet of lava rocks you could add to your cereal, but those would turn out to be nothing more than Pop Rocks candy. Also in the year 2000, we would get Cosmic Crunch, which had space-themed marshmallows, but it would soon be discontinued. Due to the release of the 2001 Nickelodeon movie, Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, the captain would join forces with the Boy Genius to make Neutron Crunch. This one had Crunch Berries shaped like Jimmy, Goddard, Cindy, and Jimmy's Rocket. Another Nickelodeon tie-in for the cereal would be because of the Rugrats Go Wild movie in 2003. With Rugrats Go Wild Berries, this one was similar to the Jimmy Neutron version, only the shapes were in the form of characters from the movie that would change colors when milk was added, and this cereal would turn your milk blue as well.
The Rugrats Go Wild Berries were primarily distributed through Walmart stores, albeit their release was very limited.
In 2003, they would come up with Captain Crunch's Oops Choco Donuts. This one would be made up of chocolate hoops that were covered in sprinkles. In 2007, we would get one of our personal favorites, Halloween Crunch. This Halloween version features green Crunch Berries shaped like ghosts and makes comebacks every so often. Now that we got the bigger ones out of the way, there were a whole bunch of littler ones, so let's go to the even speedier round. There was also Polar Crunch, Superman Crunch, Cinnamon Roll Crunch, Captain Crunch's Crunch Treasures, Airhead Berries, Orange Cream Pop Crunch, Blueberry Pancake Crunch, Chocolatey Berry Crunch, Strawberry Shortcake Crunch, Captain Crunch's Red, White, and Blue Crunch, aka Hero or Freedom Crunch, and Cotton Candy Crunch. There have been several other products based on the popular cereal, including breakfast cereal bars, and even a Taco Bell promotion where they would make these hot cereal dessert balls that were coated in smashed up Captain Crunch cereal. Which personally I think sounds terrible, but let us know what you think in the comments section below. As of 2021, and as far as we were able to find out, Captain Crunch has been discontinued officially. However, he still can live in our hearts through the magic of memorabilia. There are a ton of items, both new and old, out there related to this product. You will find a handful of Funko Pop characters, Pez dispensers, shirts, keychains, and even action figures, not to mention the always fun toys that used to be inside the box.
Hey, wait a minute. Didn't we make a video about that very topic?
You know, we did, and I suppose they're waiting for us to tell them that there's a link in the description. And at one point, there was even a video game called Captain Crunch's Crunchling Adventure. If you'd like us to do a short quickie about the game you're looking at now, let us know in the comments section below, along with any other topics you'd like us to cover in the future. We look forward to hearing from you. We make a ton of videos about a ton of different topics, so let us know what interests you. And if you like our videos, please consider clicking like and subscribe and turning on notifications. It really helps us out a ton, and you'll be sure to see all of our weird, creepy, odd, strange, or eccentric content as soon as it comes out. And with that, we've come to the end of this School of Boredom lesson and Season 1. So be sure to check back next time and come back for Season 2. Even we don't know what we have in store, but we're looking forward to sharing it with you. I've been your host, Bats, and this has been the Macabre'Gorium Labs School of Boredom Showcase of Things Likely Forgotten, Season 1 Finale, Lesson 113, Captain Crunch, Captain's Burial at Sea. Be sure to check back next time. You never know what we have in store. As usual, think for yourselves. Be excellent to each other. And keep it creepy. Hey, thanks for checking out our video. If you enjoyed this one and would like to see more of our weird, creepy, odd, eccentric, or strange content as soon as it comes out, please feel free to click like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more. We'll see you later. Keep it creepy.